proved anything over the last 8 years, it's that they know how to make a hell of a superhero game. Spider-Man remains one of the PlayStation 4's defining action games, and a shining example of open world design, as are both of its follow-ups. Now they're looking to replicate that magic with Wolverine, albeit this time as a traditional, linear AAA action game. I got to play about 2.5 hours at a recent preview event, and while my impressions are mostly glowingly positive, I did come away with a few questions and concerns.
Make this quick! It's been 48 hours since Essex was captured. We may already be too late.
Right from the start of my demo, it was very clear that this is a very different kind of Wolverine story than what I was used to. The X-Men haven't been formed yet. Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Mystique are all buds and part of a 3-person task force known as Team X, and they're all led by a not yet sinister-looking man named Nathaniel Essex, who also serves as their mentor and someone looking to help mutants everywhere. That puts them in direct opposition with the mutant-hating Boulevard Trask. And the very first mission of the game has Team X setting out to rescue their mentor from his clutches. It didn't take long after picking up the controller for me to pop out my claws, leap 20 feet towards the poor sap, and ventilate his body with 6 holes. My first reaction to the combat in Wolverine was very simply, yeah, this is exactly what I want a Wolverine game to feel like. Combat is fast.
I wish this guy would shut his fucking mouth. IGN editors are just the most annoying fucking lame dipshits.
Vicious and brutal, even if it is fundamentally similar to what Insomniac has already done with Spider-Man. Much like how Spider-Man was able to zip around the battlefield with his webs, Logan can use a gap-closing leap attack to instantly get right up in the face of an enemy and then proceed to shred them up with a basic melee claw combo or a powerful kick that can break shields and knock enemies back. That kick ends up being one of the most defining aspects of Wolverine's combat, as you can use it to both knock enemies off cliffs or into walls, and once they're stunned against a wall, you can utilize a highly damaging barrage attack that will generally defeat an enemy right away. On the defensive side, Wolverine is a parry-driven game, so you'll always need to have your finger hovering over that L1 button, ready to press it on a split second's notice, because enemies do not wait around for their turn. They are very aggressive, and while the fodder baddies can be dispatched fairly easily, most of the cybernetically enhanced ones have very sturdy defenses that strongly encourage you to parry their attacks in order to open them up. Wolverine also has access to a variety of special moves by holding down L2 and pressing a face button, which are generally reserved for stronger attacks that either do big single target damage, deal damage spread out over an area around Wolverine, grant him a limited time buff, etc. These special moves are all tied to individual cooldowns rather than a resource that builds up over the course of combat. The one resource that you do have to keep an eye on is Wolverine's Rage, which is gained simply by dealing damage and killing enemies, but slowly diminishes when you're not actively slicing and dicing. It's a mechanic meant to encourage all-out aggression, which feels very on-brand for Wolverine. There are 3 tiers of Rage that you can unlock by filling up the meter. The first tier is by default and doesn't really come with any benefits. Once you reach tier 2 though, you gain extra damage on your combo finishers, and most importantly, you're able to go into last stand when you lose all of your health. This was a neat way to incorporate Logan's healing factor into the combat design by making it so that as long as Wolverine has a bar of rage in the tank, he can essentially come back from the dead, trading in his rage meter for health. If he goes down without a full bar of rage to spare though, it's game over and back to the last checkpoint for you. At rage tier 3 though is where the party starts. Once he hits that rage threshold, the background turns.
Whatever happened to Chris Angel, nobody watches him. So he's irrelevant. Thanks, Dodo.
It's gray, the enemies get highlighted in red, and all of Wolverine's attacks do dramatically increase damage, with most weaker enemies being executable immediately. This lets you throw caution to the wind and just tear apart entire groups of enemies in quick order. It is quite simply the epitome of the Wolverine power fantasy. My overall impression of combat based on what I played is that it's all fundamentally sound, very satisfying. It felt like it was missing an element of creativity that I always encounter, but launch them up for an air combat encourages you to use the environment.
Okay, there you go. IGN editors are fucking retarded.
Wolverine's combat will remain engaging throughout the all very combustible elements in play, and I'm excited to see where it all goes. Yet another memorable and nuanced performance in his wrestling with Sabretooth, play a revealing game of Never Have I Ever with Mystique, and even find a handful of Easter eggs tucked away. Wolverine impressed how it will hold up over the course of November 15th.
What's
Let's take a look at what's going on with the Luigi case.
Is accused assassin Luigi Mangione making a legal move that could
I got some stuff for you to react to, VG. Here,
And let go
here,
time and time.
here.
Now it has come to my attention that there are
can do, but you don't career move more.
Literally don't give a shit.
I once had a teacher my classmates nicknamed Hitler for boys. If you were male and you weren't flamboyant, because everything we said is decrease male academic performance, perpetuate misandry, and the boys fall behind and often get into trouble. That walks you through some of the most important advantages in feminists.
Boring. Thanks, Dodo.
Density is streaming right now. I wonder if you can confront him on his hypocrisy and him laughing at Brian Tyler Cohen posting anti-Semitic video of Netanyahu and refusing to call these PP out like Adam Mockler too, but trash talks Hassan on Twitter and
Oh, fuck. I kind of already did that. Thanks, Dodo.
I am happy to announce a few hours ago I did my first ever pin of testosterone.
Congratulations. Thanks for the donation, dude.
turn his state trial for the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson upside down? We're looking at reports about a possible plea deal, what could really happen, and the chess moves Mangione's lawyers are likely making. I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Luigi Mangione is weeks away from a trial in New York State Court that could end in him spending decades in prison or possibly being found not guilty. But the state case isn't the only legal jeopardy that Luigi Mangione faces. He also faces federal charges that could end with him spending the rest of his life in prison if he's convicted. A trial in federal court is a different ballgame from state court in New York City, but it's possible that Mangione's attorneys are trying to work out something with the feds that could result in no trials being held at all. We're going to dig into that very soon, but first, let's look at the case quickly in case you're not up to speed. The DA in Manhattan charged Mangione with second-degree murder in the December 2024 execution-style killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mangione is accused of following Thompson's movements and tracking him to the Hilton in Midtown Manhattan early on the morning of December 4th, pulling out a ghost gun and shooting Thompson from behind. But there's also a federal case where Luigi Mangione faces an interstate commerce charge and 2 counts of stalking.
Dude, I'm so fucking tired of getting recommended Brian Tyler Cohen videos literally every upload. Epstein bombshell. Epstein exposed. Trump bombshell on Epstein. Like, oh my god, what a fucking loser.
Resulting in death. A judge dismissed a federal murder charge that could have resulted in Mangione receiving the death penalty had he been convicted. But is Luigi Mangione looking to make a deal with the feds just ahead of his trial in state court on murder charges? A last
The presidency and the Senate and police, all jails.
Yes.
Is that something you as a person of color might be interested in, or?
No.
Really? But you're diverse. The Democrat socialists are taking America by storm, pretending to be a minority movement while being 85% white. So to expose the blackface, I'm going undercover as a white splainer in their most gentrified district in America. Hello, comrade. Do you support the Democrat Socialists of America?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, amazing. Are you a member already, or?
Yes.
We're just doing an interest form for NPOCs, non-persons of color. We try to get white people to represent people of color to sort of speak for them.
JD Vance would beat AOC in an election.
Speak over them, since it's hard for them to speak up, you know? Do you agree to abolish all borders?
Yeah.
Great, in the presidency and the Senate?
Yes. Right now, yes.
Okay, trying to get rid of the presidency, the Senate, all borders, police, all jails. Is that something you as a person of color might be interested in, or?
No.
Really? But you're diverse.
Why would I want to abolish the police?
Oh, okay.
We need them.
We typically put brown and black people, like, as the face of it, like Mamdani, trying to usher in socialism through disguised white supremacy.
Heck yeah.
Are you a fan of socialism?
Yeah.
Yes.
And what do you like about socialism?
I went to a very socialist high school.
So they're like indoctrinating kids young now, teaching them the truth. Are you interested in socialism?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, okay. Do you like the DSA?
No. Hell no.
Mom, Dad. Free bus, free Palestine, free rent.
No.
Did you flee socialism? Mm-hmm. You don't think socialism is a good idea? No. Okay. I wonder why, though.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you like about communism?
Better than what we have now.
I know, great. And communism has worked everywhere pretty much.
Right.
The Soviet Union was amazing and everyone loved it.
Yeah,
It was like one big party. Now it's China, super fun.
Right.
Like everybody didn't die.
Socialism, communism, that's some rich white people.
We have a couple like black and brown people. It's 4% black. We're mostly white people speaking over black people and pushing policies that they don't actually support.
Yeah, it's all white women.
Last-minute hearing has been scheduled for Friday, August 14th in federal court. The government and
Can we at least react to this news, VG?
People that are the least suspecting that
We'll do it later. Thanks, Dodo.
Mangioni's defense requested this hearing together, according to this letter posted on the docket. MK True Crime hosts and attorneys Dave Ehrenberg and Jonas Spilbor will join me in a bit to discuss the pros and cons of Luigi Mangione pleading guilty in federal court ahead of his state trial. What's the strategy here? Well, the New York Times and TMZ are reporting that Mangione will plead guilty in federal court to the stalking charges and then argue in state court that Mangione can't be tried for the same crime under New York's double jeopardy statute. That statute reads, a person may not be twice prosecuted for the same offense. A person may not be separately prosecuted for two offenses based upon the same act or criminal transaction unless the offenses, as defined, have substantially different elements and the acts establishing one offense are in the main clearly distinguishable from those establishing the other, or each of the offenses as defined contains an element which is not an element of the other, and the statutory provisions defining such offenses are designed to prevent very different kinds of harm or evil. But here's the thing. Mangione is charged for the same offense in state and federal court, but the charges are different. He faces second-degree murder counts in New York State court and stalking charges in federal court. So it's the same offense, but different charges, different courts. This is not unheard of, but the defense will make the double jeopardy argument in state court. The killing of Brian Thompson was an execution, plain and simple, an assassination. There is nothing romantic or cool about it. But that hasn't stopped a movement of supporters from coalescing around Luigi Mangione, supporting his killing of Brian Thompson as necessary to send a message to the health insurance industry. Brian Thompson, a husband and father, who also led one of the nation's largest health insurance companies.
They literally scam people. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars for insurance and they just deny your claims.
Israel had passed along some intelligence which suggested a specific threat from Iran targeting Air Force One, a threat involving a shoulder-fired missile. Now, some officials were reportedly skeptical of that Israeli intelligence, which was viewed as part of Israel's effort to influence President Trump's decision-making on Iran. Joining us now, John Hudson, national security reporter for The Washington Post, who, of course, has been digging up so many.
Iran has literally stated an innumerable amount of times they are trying to kill Trump. The CIA and FBI know they're trying to kill Trump.
Many of these important new details on the
It's like the
president's cloak and
stupidest
dagger
fucking
flight.
shit.
And you have a new byline out this morning, along with your colleagues, that the CIA specifically had low confidence, right? We talked about questions at the time in this intel.
Okay, great. Who fucking cares? They're just blabbing, wasting
The
time.
case that's attracted the most headlines happened in the
I literally don't fucking care about this bitch. Thanks, Dodo.
Was murdered in cold blood, shot from behind as he walked down the street. The shooter took off on a bike and escaped. Surveillance images appeared during the manhunt for the shooter, showing a masked man with full eyebrows getting into a cab. Another image from a
Yeah, that's
hostel
Luigi.
showed a smiling man with full eyebrows. Then on December 9th, an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania called 911 because they thought the man sitting in the restaurant might be the shooter.
Didn't they have like a $10,000 reward or something for anybody who gives information leading to his arrest? And then this minimum wage fuck gives information leading to his arrest and they stiff him. Didn't give him any money.
Yes, sir. There you go. Yeah, put your mask down real quick for me. Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Rosario. Rosario? Someone called. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have your ID on you? Yeah, yes, sir. Thanks. I thought she looked like someone. 079.
If you haven't checked it out yet, here are 3 reasons to jump on board today. Number 1, you get complete and start exploring today. A laptop, a journal with work. Okay, so to discuss what could be possibly going on with the possibility that Luigi Mangione is going to walk into federal court on Friday and plead guilty to some charges, I want to bring in 2 experts. Jonas Spilbor is the host of Positively Legal on the MK True Crime. Dave, I'll start with you. Do you think Luigi Mangione is trying to pull a legal maneuver here by walking into federal court, pleading guilty to some interstate charges and stalking charges in order to try to upend his state case?
Yes, I think it's a smart move by his really able really able defense lawyers. They used to be prosecutors. Because what happened here is originally the federal government wanted to seek the death penalty in this case. And you had the federal government who stepped in front of the state. They wanted to take this guy down. And then they lost in court on the death penalty. It was taken off the table. And it looks like that they're going to allow Luigi Mangione perhaps a plea up to the court, which means that it's a plea deal where the judge will make the decision on the sentence. And that could be less than life in prison. That's something they're seeking. And then the defense is going to use that as a way to say, all right, double jeopardy applies. And now the state case is gone because New York has more generous double jeopardy protections for defendants. We saw this in the Paul Manafort case. And so it is a really smart strategy. I'm actually a little surprised. I'd love to hear John's take on why the federal government is agreeing to that. Because, you know, if he went to trial, the argument about extreme emotional disturbance, I wasn't in the right mental state, it's really not allowed in a federal trial, but you can argue it to a judge when it comes to the sentencing. So this, to me, inures to the benefit of the defense here. So I'd love to hear what the prosecution gets out of this. Yeah.
Jonna, Dave has a good point there. You actually practice in New York State. You're in New York.
Yep.
So if I'm in Alvin Bragg's office, am I furious when I read this report about the feds, coming in and bigfooting my case? Because typically they work together and you would have the feds acting as the backstop, because let's not act like in Manhattan.
It would shock me if they offered him any kind of plea deal. Like, they're absolutely, after, like, making him an example,
That you can't maybe get a jury where there might be jury nullification. I mean, we see the fangirls outside of court.
Right.
We see them dressing up, and they don't care that he's accused of executing a man in cold blood. That doesn't.
I have a very different take on this, and I could be wrong. I think Alvin Bragg's office is in on this deal. This is sounding like a global deal to me, where maybe behind the scenes, Bragg's office and the feds are talking about this. Why would it behoove anybody to do that? On one hand, I mean, obviously, the person who wins the most here is Luigi Mangione, because he's not, if this goes through, he's not going to face two separate prosecutions. However, I think the public also wins a little bit, and here's why. As a member of the public on this case, right, I'm not an attorney on either side in this case. I have been so offended by the fan club, by the Luigi Mangione fan club. We have to remember, at the end of the day, I don't care how bad the healthcare system is in this country, how mad you are at, I don't give a who about that. He gunned down in cold blood, in plain sight, the father of two children, regardless of what he did for a living. And the fact that mostly women, I suppose, are out there fangirling over this murderer is personally offensive. At least this way, as you mentioned, Anjanette, we no longer have to worry about jury nullification, which was something that I was concerned about as a legal analyst just looking.
Maybe, it would still kind of surprise me if they gave him a plea deal, since they want to make an example out of him.
Taban might roll over in his grave before he writes me a check, and we also might have to put half of the eye surgeons out of business by telling the truth about how bad eye surgery is online. But hypothetically, if he was going to pay me an amount, what is blinding and disfiguring someone and basically ending their YouTube career as an online influencer? Here we have an almost $21 million verdict in Oregon for permanent leg injuries ending professional sports career. Portland Timbers goalkeeper, career-ending injuries. So, regardless of which way you put it, a fair amount that this guy would pay me.
Yeah, the difference in this case is that the guy committed medical malpractice.
Is roughly between $10 and $40 million. Anything less than that, considering the extent of the injury and what was done to me, and I've had to have over a dozen individual surgeries. What should really scare you from getting eye surgery is that the best eye plastic surgeon, the best oculoplastic surgeon in the United States, doesn't even do that. He is too busy fixing the other surgeon's mistakes. So Dr. Raymond Douglas does mostly thyroid eye disease patients, orbital decompressions, and he fixes other surgeons' mistakes. And unfortunately, he could not fix my eyes. I had an orbital reconstruction with him May of last year. Didn't fix it. Back to square one. $40,000 down the drain. Go figure. I can't say it was a positive experience, but I guess at least he tried,
Riveting content.
July 21st. The second one, my son was real crib from the South Side apartments. All that shit. Now, what I told you, fuck you, Donald Trump, this Dale Earnhardt, all that shit that you waiting for, but you killing my kid and the tapes and everywhere. That's the real issue. That's the real issue. That's the real issue. That's the real issue. You sitting here playing with me. That's the real issue. July 21st is the real issue. July 21st, that's the real issue.
is currently going viral across X.com right now, and it depicts a man called Daquan Hunt, who, by the way, is live streaming himself on Instagram Live, walking the streets of North Carolina before spotting a woman who committed the aggressive crime of waving in his direction while holding a balloon that said "Get well soon." And as you just saw right there, or really didn't see because the video doesn't actually cover it because he's filming it himself, he sucker punched that woman, knocking her out cold, unconscious on the ground. And by the way, he also proceeded to smack her across the face repeatedly, grabbed the "Get well" balloon that she had in her hand, threw it away, then grabbed her sunglasses and also aggressively tossed those away. Well, it turns out Daquan Hunt is quite a big fan of doing this kind of thing. He's done so multiple different times. There are other viral videos, including this one that's absolutely terrifying, of a white woman that is walking on the streets that he went to go after, that tried to run into traffic in order to avoid him.
So dummy down. So dummy down. You wanna run? You wanna run, motherfucker? Huh? I bet you run again, motherfucker. I bet you run again, motherfucker. You said something else? You said something? You said something, motherfucker? You said something?
Due to the fact that Daquan Hunt is that violent, that vicious, and that reprehensible. And honestly, this iconic image, this split screen, should be something that you see everywhere in mainstream media at this moment in time, because the district attorney for North Carolina in the Charlotte area looks at these two individuals, that woman laying unconscious on the ground with one eye open because she was sucker punched by this scumbag, and says that Daquan Hunt is the victim in this scenario. And the reason we know that to be true is that people have dug into his lengthy criminal history, and what they found out is that he's been getting slaps on the wrist for at least 12 years, probably longer than that, because we don't know what his juvenile history is because that's sealed. And yeah, it's reprehensible, it's absolutely terrifying. And by the way, Daquan Hunt's own family has been trying to get him locked up because they know what a threat he is.
His sister, who did not want to be identified, telling Queen City News her family has spent years trying to get him help for his bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and PTSD after their father was murdered.
I wanted her to have justice for what happened because she didn't deserve it. But I also want my brother to get the help that he needs because he is severely mentally ill.
This case raising questions about a system in which repeat offenders are a reality.
And this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into threats that are being let go by woke prosecutors, I want to talk about threats to your own privacy with today's sponsor, Incogni. There's a privacy crisis going on. Privacy today, that's incogni.com/AJW.
Viral videos showing women attacked without warning, including in Dilworth last week, led to the arrest of Daquan Hunt. We are only showing screen grabs from the suspect's Instagram page. The videos are too graphic to air.
So the local news segments that cover Daquan Hunt repeat the same thing over and over again in the hopes that you out there in the audience will believe them, and that is the idea that these are random attacks, that Daquan Hunt is just walking down the street and randomly any person that passes by could be a target due to the fact that he must be suffering from some kind of mental illness. And I want to be clear, the family that wants him off the streets, they do believe he is mentally ill, and he may very well be mentally ill. He's not exactly engaging in the actions of somebody of sound mind, but the fact is, Daquan Hunt actually has a pattern of targeting people that can't defend themselves, and it's really strange and odd how this guy who's talking about Trump and all these crazy things only seems to go after people that are the least suspecting that they're about to be attacked. Disproportionately, they are women, because he doesn't want a fight back against him. So he's sane enough to target people that can't fight back against him, but insane enough that apparently he can't be held accountable for his crimes because he's been let go time and time again. Now, it has come to my attention that there are some black people on the internet.com that decided to make videos in support of this guy because they believe he's targeting white people and white people are racist, therefore they deserve it.
I might get criticized for this, but I honestly don't give a shit. Because when I go to these white people's posts, all I see is racist ass shit and the purge this and the purge that. Hey, y'all can say what y'all want about that black man in Charlotte punching all them white what?
At least of the comments being left under the video, talking about how they have no empathy for them or laughing about this woman being attacked because haha, white people deserve it. That honestly is just par for the course on the internet at this moment in time, that you're gonna have people with this level of racial hatred making stupid ass arguments that the women had it coming. What really bothers me is the local news media that's actually covering this up and bringing on alleged experts to make the case that there was no possible way, based on his lengthy criminal history, he could have served any significant amount of time for anything.
Court records show Hunt has been cycling through the criminal system with prior convictions from assault with a deadly weapon to disorderly conduct, raising questions about why someone with his criminal history was not in jail to begin with. Attorney Thomas Clark, who was not involved in the case, says a defendant can only be sentenced under the laws that exist at the time.
Once you've done that sentence, you've served your debt. You've paid your debt with society.
Clark says the justice system cannot legally keep someone behind bars based on what they might do in the future.
We can't punish people
they
for
can.
things that they have not done yet.
He adds that even if Hunt had received the maximum sentence allowed on many of his previous convictions, he likely would have already completed his time.
And that is just not true. Of course, there's a video on X where somebody breaks down his criminal history. It is 5 minutes long. The whole thing will be linked in its entirety. And one of the things that you'll notice, other than the pattern of victims, the fact that he consistently attacks defenseless women, is the fact.
My God, what is wrong with Democrats these days, always blaming white people even when the person of color is guilty?
Yeah, thanks, Dodo.
That you have a prosecutor that seems completely uninterested in holding him accountable, releases him over and over again, and in addition to that, he consistently gets time served for crimes that are incredibly severe and serious that should warrant decades in prison, and yet this guy keeps getting let go, and this is by design. This is what the prosecutor who ran in this area wanted to do when he took office, so we shouldn't be surprised that he's delivering on those promises. But let us get into a little bit of that criminal history.
So I've obtained all of the arrest records for Daquan Hunt, the man who was brutally beating white women in Charlotte, North Carolina last week. And I want you to tell me if you notice any sort of a pattern here. Okay. So December 2012, Hunt is arrested for assault on a female. Case is dismissed. July 2017, Hunt is also arrested for assault on a female. Case is dismissed. That same month, he's arrested for violating a domestic violence protective order. Case is dismissed. November 17, 2017, Hunt is arrested for assault on a female again. Case is dismissed again. That same month again, another domestic violence protective order violation. Case is dismissed. January 2018, another domestic violence protective order violation. Case is dismissed. So just so you're counting, 6 cases, all 6 violence against women or domestic violence protective orders, 6 dismissals.
Look, there are a lot of things that are completely overstated by the feminist left, specifically when it comes to how male aggression is just running amok in the United States of America. But the fact is, in this case, if feminists were actually interested in helping women, maybe, just maybe, they would be talking about the fact that the left-wing prosecutor in this area
Probably the most epic part in the game. Did you know they put Baron Samedi in the game? I'm supposed to know who the fuck that is. Wasn't this like an optional secret level thing? I don't know who that is. Thanks, dude.
And why are so many black people so racist to white people these days?
Because they're dumb. Thanks, dude.
In order to not appear racist, has been letting this guy go over and over again, despite the fact that he is committing domestic violence repeatedly against women, time and time again. He's on probation, so he should be, at least at the moment that he's being arrested for many of these instances, automatically put in prison to serve out his sentence, and yet he is being let go over and over again. And in fact, even in the case that we're talking about right now, I've seen reports of him being released because, as he said in the original video, that assault was back in July 21st of this year, so he's been out 4 weeks, again, after he committed these vicious, horrible crimes. And I want to be clear, the sucker punch incident that we saw in the beginning of this, that could have potentially led to that woman dying. That woman sprawled out on the ground means absolutely nothing to the left wing. They think it's perfectly fine. They think that's a price that we should all be willing to pay in order to not infringe on the rights of this individual. And I think in response to that, I would be fine if we just executed this guy, or anybody who repeatedly commits this number of felonies has been convicted and has shown absolutely no regard for civilization or society and no desire.
Well, none of these fucking people give a shit. Like, it's just commie brain rot. They're basically useful idiots who've been trained to, cause the collapse of modern Western civilization, let out all the criminals, let them do whatever the fuck they want, make up whatever fucking excuses you need to let them out. So yeah.
To ever improve or get better, or, you know, not attack random people, quote unquote random people on the streets.
Now let's skip ahead to 2019. Hunt is arrested for discharging a firearm in the city, injury to personal property. Both charges are dismissed. Okay, June 2019 again, same month. Hunt is arrested for discharging a weapon into an occupied property, which is a felony, plus a felony probation violation, which means he's already on paper for something else. This time, he pleads guilty to both. In July 2020, he is sentenced to 20 to 36 months in prison, but the sentence is suspended. He never goes to prison. Ever. August 2024, Hunt is arrested for breaking and entering, injury to personal property, misdemeanor probation violation. He's found guilty on all three. 90 days in prison is his sentence, but he's already been sitting in prison when they arrested him. So he's released that same day that his sentence comes out. No extra time in prison for that.
Now, of course, as you see, based on his criminal history,
Yeah, they're just letting him out. Because crazy and black, I guess. So that makes sense.
As well as 8 white people.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Dodo.
Look at this cat.
Hey, Mr. Man, Maui, Orangey. I need you to look at me. I have to talk to you about something very serious. I have to get 8,000 watch hours. Do you think you can do that for me? Hey,
My goodness.
Maui. You know what? I just need to get a job because I'm never going to get monetized. Not at this rate. Never going to happen. Yeah, thanks, Maui, for nothing.
He's still a good cat. Thank you, thee and thou. That is a very nice orange cat.
the behavior is escalating.
Guy I work with pays $200 for one 10 ml vial of test sip from the clinic. Yeah, people really like getting ripped off for absolutely no reason.
It's getting more violent, more dangerous, and as a convicted felon, he shouldn't even have a firearm on him in the first place, and yet this guy getting a free pass on firing a loaded handgun into an occupied dwelling, that's what we call attempted murder for those of you who are a little bit slow, who work in the Charlotte, North Carolina District Attorney's Office, and yeah.
Is Charlotte, North Carolina run by, like, commie fucktards? Like, when I think of North Carolina, I think of, like, kinda conservative, you know, righty, like this sounds like something only that would happen in like a liberal municipality.
He got no consequences for that, as we find out over and over again throughout the 5-minute breakdown of this guy's insane criminal history. And even when he's convicted, even when they find him guilty by a jury of his peers, guess what? He gets time served or suspended sentence.
All right, September 2025. Hunt is arrested at a terminal for simple assault and disorderly conduct. He's convicted in November of the disorderly conduct. He goes to prison for 11 days. Credit to time served, and then he's released. November 2025, just a couple months later, Hunt is arrested for assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. He's convicted of the assault, and he spends, get this, 6 days in prison. Yes, 6. For assaulting a police officer. He's credited to time served and then released. Okay, 1 month later, December 2025, Hunt is arrested for trespass in the second degree. Case is dismissed. Same month, December 2025, Hunt is arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, communicating threats, and carrying a concealed weapon. He's convicted in March of 2026, this year, on the assault of a deadly weapon with concealed carry. He spends 89 days in prison. That's it. 89 days in prison. The other 2 charges are completely dismissed.
Now, one of the other things that you'll notice about this video, where this guy is breaking down all the different various criminal charges, convictions, light sentences, non-sentences, suspended sentences, or charges being dismissed, is the fact that many of them take place after the year 2017. And the reason that is important is because a lot of times a previous criminal history that's absolutely insane is on a previous district attorney or state's attorney. However, in this case, the state's attorney for this county has been in office since 2017. And of course, he ran on criminal justice reform. He ran specifically on going soft on black offenders, and it's absolutely crucial that you understand that this was the focal point of his campaign, because guess what? If you go to this website that's all about this guy, Spencer Merriweather III.
Yeah, that explains everything. So just retard, lefty, commie, brain rot, horse shit. Liberals just love crime. I don't know why they have this obsession with just letting criminals do whatever the fuck they want. But, like, it's so annoying too. They also want to like ban guns and shit. It's like, if you love crime so much, like, why don't you just let us shoot people? It's just so fucking annoying. They just, again, they intentionally just try to destroy society. Ban guns, don't let people defend themselves, prosecute the people who are law-abiding, just trying to defend themselves, and then let the criminals do whatever the fuck they want. That's exactly why Canada has just quickly become a fucking shithole, because they're doing exactly this in Canada. There's basically this two-tiered fucking justice system where they let Black, brown, indigenous people do whatever the fuck they want, let them steal cars, invade homes, shoot at people, and then just let them ride out and do it again.
The district attorney for this area, he has a 1 minute and 40-second video that's...
Let's face it, they're only letting him go just because he's black, just like O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, pretty much. Thanks, Dodo.
The first thing that greets you on this website right under his name, and he says right there what he's trying to go after and assemble teams in order to go after is the racial disparities and lack of economic opportunity for some people due to racial consequences and whatnot. And this is after he breezes past targeting violent crime, which obviously he's not doing.
Hi, I'm Spencer Merriweather, and I have the privilege of serving as Mecklenburg County District Attorney.
Beta.
I lead a team of prosecutors and legal assistants who work every single day for justice. Justice through integrity, so that every person can place trust in our work. Every year, the District Attorney's Office handles 100,000 misdemeanors and over 10,000 felonies. And in every single one of those cases, our priorities are to make sure that we are ensuring community safety and fairness. We concentrate our resources on violent crime to protect our community. We work with local advocates to build networks of support for survivors. And we are consistently seeking out and employing strategies to confront racial and economic disparities that impact our criminal justice system.
Now, this is Mecklenburg County's district attorney for those of you who want to actually vote against him if you find yourself in this county. But yeah, this is the exact attitude that leads to this individual getting break after break after break, because supposedly the thing that's causing him to do all this stuff is the fact that he's just in poverty. This guy just doesn't have money, not because he's a crazy person who's violent and obviously can't hold down a job due to things that are wrong with him that are within him, but it's due to the fact that the external systems, the systemic structures, are actually creating the problems, and thus that's the reason why he's committing these crimes and why he's attacking all these different random individuals in non-random attacks, in attacks that target the most vulnerable, because again, he's systemically disadvantaged. And this stupid ass district attorney, who again has been in office since 2017, wreaking havoc on this area, has not apologized for this. In fact, he's done everything in his power to ignore this guy for years, for almost a full decade since he's been in office, and this is over the objections of members of his family, members of Hunt's family, by the way, that want him locked up, that fear, and have been quoted in the press as saying that they're worried he's going to get to the point where he kills someone. And yet, even with that, even with the black family of this guy, people, by the way, who are being victimized by him as well, a bunch of those charges are related to how he treats those individuals. That's not good enough. That's internalized systemic structural racism, and therefore you just have to deal with the fact that he's going to sucker punch random women on the streets who are not deserving of this. And hey, maybe he'll kill somebody at some point in time, and then maybe, just maybe, we might declare him mentally incompetent to withstand trial and release him in a couple of years. There are a lot of people who have differences of opinion with me on different issues, and
Well, again, this is why you don't vote liberal. Just, pro-crime, anti-free speech, anti-freedom, that's all they are. Thanks for the donation, Ivory.
Welcome back for part 2 of Matrix of Lies Miami Edition, covering the Dindu twins and their ongoing legal battle to fight against extradition from Miami, USA to awaiting high security cells in the UK, likely HMP Belmarsh or HMP Woodhill. When we left off in part 1, we had just watched Joseph McBride, the Tate brothers' longtime attorney and spokesperson, introduce newly minted members of their legal team from Miami firm Black Srebnick.
We've assembled a team here. These are from the Roy Black's prestigious firm,
the Honorable and since passed on Roy Black. He's a legend, and they're here. They have joined our team. We have a competent team. We have a wonderful team. We're looking forward to getting the best possible result under the sun.
And we're going to balance that announcement off against a revelation that Tristan had, that he and Andrew were no longer protected by Romania and could be picked up at any time. As according to the unsealed warrant, which quoted Tristan in a New Yorker article entitled Andrew Tate's Empire of Abuse, published only 6 weeks prior to their arrest in Miami. The key words here from the tail end of that quote are, "We're going to have to stay in Dubai and the United States and stop traveling and get some extradition lawyers." An epiphany, certainly, if not completely prescient. And after the final touches were put on part 1, here's what we discovered about the expertise of their newly combined legal entourage. Neither McBride nor anyone at Black Srebnick are known for their expertise in dealing with extradition. Both are criminal defense firms, with McBride's firm having very little experience in that field either. The most notable case that McBride has ever been involved in was the appeal of American sex trafficking cult leader Kenneth Rainier's sentence. But despite McBride's best efforts, Rainier remains sentenced to 120 years behind bars. A search for Black Srebnick past cases yielded a single extradition result, the extradition of Kevin Youngman, Southern District of Florida, 2024-25, where the firm lost his motion for reconsideration, and Youngman was sent to Ireland where he pleaded guilty to SA charges dating back to 2018, when Youngman, get this, choked his victims unconscious to SA her after having consensual sex. Now, after representing that convicted rapist, they're co-representing a pair of brothers reported to have similar proclivities operating alongside Rainier's past appellate counsel. Real dream team, and not one of them an extradition expert. So we're at the point in McBride's sidewalk presser where he's talking about bail.
So yeah, this is not a criminal proceeding, and what the judge was talking about is that the Bail Reform Act isn't the operative law here. We're looking at the extradition process. This is the first small step in that process. There's a lawyers-only conference coming up in a few days. Our legal team will talk to the government will talk to our team, we'll converse with the judge, we'll set a briefing schedule for substantive arguments to be made at some point in the future.
We mentioned before that the Tates are now considered fugitives, international fugitives if you want to be perfectly accurate, and international fugitives held in detention while awaiting extradition are almost always considered to be flight risks, with the presumption against bail. It's written right into the Criminal Resource Manual of the US DOJ, Section 618, Bail Hearing. The Bail Reform Act and the attendant presumption in favor of bail for persons facing trial apply only to criminal defendants and are inapplicable to fugitives facing extradition proceedings. Because of the potential harm to the country's international relations that could result from flight, there is a presumption against bail in international extradition cases, and only special circumstances justify the release of a fugitive on bail. Wright v. Henkel, 190 U.S. 40, 1903. Absence of risk of flight is not a special circumstance. The exceptions to this standard are those detainees with severe medical conditions requiring treatment. Otherwise, you're going to sit in your cell like a good little fugitive until you get loaded up on the plane and headed off to Heathrow, like the other 58 fugitives that got shipped off to the UK from the US since 2007. One quick note here as something else that does not apply to international fugitive detainees. Some people watching the U.S. Marshals noted that when the Tates were cuffed, the Tates did not audibly get...
Gary Yarovsky is my favorite, besides Vegan Gains, of course. Good evening, everyone. All right, well, thank you.
...get read their rights. Some tater tots quickly determined that meant the arrest was unlawful. But fun fact, U.S. Marshals, when detaining extradition fugitives, do not need to Mirandize the detainees. That's something that we learned over the course of researching this case. More broadly speaking, American law enforcement officers, if they're just coming to arrest you, and those officers are not the ones interrogating you, they don't have to read you your rights at all. So we found that interesting, and we found that out while digging for why the brothers' mugshots were not released to the public. And it's for the same reason. They are international fugitives under detention, not American citizens under arrest, so they do get processed differently. McBride in his filings is trying to use the Tate history of attending court hearings in Romania while under judicial control as some sort of leverage to get the brothers released on bail during the hearings. However, clips like this will not help McBride convince the court that they are not extremely high flight risks.
So then I came up with the idea of, why don't I put myself on as many grids as possible? And the goal behind that is that no one grid controls me. So for example, I have 7 passports. I have 15 driver's licenses. So let's say I'm driving my car and the police stop me. I'll just pull out a license from some random country. I'm in Romania. I'm driving a Slovakian plated car. I've got an American driver's license. I've got a Estonian.
This guy's such a fucking retard. So retarded.
I am so sick of this race card being used to excuse criminals. It's just bullshit.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Dodo.
Passport, and I'm speaking English. Like, you think they're gonna take my license, or they're just gonna look at me and go, just slow down, bro, bye. The paperwork's not worth it for them.
Has been warmed. I'm going to gently.
If you ban my passport, you can ban my passport right now. I guarantee I got another one that'll work. I'm that guy, right?
If I fuck up big time and England wants me in jail, I can fly on a Nigerian passport, or an American, or an English, or a Polish, or an Estonian. I have so many fucking passports. What, are you gonna block them all? I've got 4 more I haven't even named on YouTube. They can't stop me traveling. There's always a passport I can pull out. There's always a driver's license I can pull out. If you ban one, I've got another one. I've got bank accounts in 19 countries. My
I love how this genius just broadcasted this online. So now they can just play these videos in court, and now he can't get out.
shit is diversified. So am I off grid? No, I'm on so many fucking grids. You can't lock the grid on me.
So McBride's main argument against him being a flight risk is that they kept showing up for hearings in Romania while under judicial control. That's true, but it's also incomplete. The moment those travel restrictions were lifted, the brothers were filmed on private jets, bouncing between countries and openly talking about their yacht under construction in Turkey. A yacht they have now officially declared they do not own in the paperwork that was submitted by McBride & Co. They have sworn in this document, as for the yacht, it does not belong to either Andrew or Tristan. The video, referenced by the government, was a social media promotion. They have been lying to their fans since November of 2024 about this yacht that Tristan supposedly commissioned.
It was 42 meters, and I now have extended it because it's almost finished. It is 49 meters, and if it goes over 50 meters, I cannot park right at the front in Bodrum where I want to park. So I've done 49 meters for my yacht.
49 meters, 160 feet.
Obsidian Blade.
But back to the point. Showing up to court while you're being monitored in Romania does not magically make you a low flight risk. And there's a more recent problem with the "they always comply with court instructions" claim. On July 3, 2026, as part of the hearing that added new charges in Romania, the court ordered a seizure of 5 more luxury vehicles from them. Why? Because the Tates allegedly sold vehicles that had been returned to them only for safekeeping, but were still under a seizure order. The brothers got them back on a bullshit claim that should have totally failed the sniff test, that the cars would deteriorate if they were impounded. So they were returned to the brothers for safekeeping, and they sold them instead. Tate sold 5 and Tristan sold 1, according to the report. That is not what compliance with court instruction looks like, and it directly undercuts what McBride is telling the US court. So when the defense points to the Romanian court attendance as proof that they're not a flight risk, the fuller record shows both have the means and a willingness to disregard court restrictions when it suits them. Almost immediately after the Tates were detained, McBride raised the idea that President Trump or Marco Rubio might intervene, arguing that Trump was elected to fight against this kind of nonsense, suggesting that Trump, his Secretary of State, or the Supreme Court would nix the extradition order. This has flooded across social media and influencer accounts now as a demand that Trump repay the Tates' political donation with a pardon or refusal to extradite them as requested. First, the charges do not originate in the US, so no political or judicial arm of the US government has the power to pardon them of anything at all, never mind dozens of serious criminal charges. Second, although the final signatory on the extradition order is the current administration's Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the Trump administration has already announced they do not intend to interfere with this process. And third, expecting presidential intervention because of a political donation is the definition of quid pro quo corruption for a pair of lowlifes with no actual clout outside their platform. And in case there is any doubt,
Thanks, Caroline. Is President Trump or the administration, do they have any plans to intervene in the extradition process for the Tate brothers?
No, we've already answered that question.
Finally, McBride, possibly one of the worst researchers in the legal profession, estimated this extradition fight could take around 60 days, possibly a little bit longer or shorter. So here's the actual schedule.
Guys, just look at this. Yeah, the military uniform really fits him. Putin attended far east of Russia. He even went to Japan.
That looks like a body double, not Putin.
Japanese territory, yeah. So yeah, Putin threatened Japan. He said that Kurils are the Russian territory. We don't have any sort of the territorial demands for Japan, but Japan has demands for us. Also, Japan applied sanctions on us, and he went there to those islands to show off, like, I'm here on Japan territory, temporarily occupied by me, Putin. So Putin decided to blackmail Japan at the time that China is already waging a large-scale pressure campaign against Tokyo. On August the 12th, on board the cruiser Varyak ship, Putin accused Japan of changing its policy towards Russia, imposing sanctions and making territorial claims. The next day, he visited Iturup, or Etorofu, Japanese island. This visit happened for the first time in the last 26 years, so Prime Minister Takichi called the visit absolutely unacceptable, while Japan's foreign minister summoned the Russian ambassador and lodged a protest. So in general, that's the cooperation between those autocracy countries like China, Russia, North Korea and Iran to push Western democracies, and Japan, it is also a Western democracy. It is a civilized, if not the most civilized country where human rights matter. And I really love Japan. Yeah, it has its own downsides, but come on, this is a great country. As for me, there is no perfect country.
Yeah, so that's some of the most retarded shit I've ever fucking heard in my life. Japan does not have freedom of speech. They have like one of the worst criminal justice systems fucking imaginable. They do not allow for jury trials. There are only trials where a panel of judges determines, whether or not you're guilty, which means there is an incredibly high risk of bias with all these cases. You can also see statistics on this. There's something like a 98% conviction rate with all criminal charges. That's for two reasons. One, because of that inherent bias with their criminal justice system. And two, they'll only prosecute if they're very, very certain that they can get a conviction. So, they rarely, even if exonerating evidence comes forward, they'll rarely change their mind. We're just going to convict. They also have one of the worst prison systems in the entire world. It's completely and utterly inhumane. It's literally fucking torture. I'm pretty sure they've been criticized for it by the fucking UN. So where the fuck did this guy get the idea that Japan cares about human rights? They don't. They don't have basic human rights like free speech. They're this gay, cucked, dipshit fucking culture where if you modify your Nintendo Switch, they'll throw you in fucking prison. Like, what are you fucking talking about? And of course, they have a fucking female prime minister who's making the country even more broke. Wow, Japan is so great. You can move there and be poor. Wonderful. What a great country. Like, it's so stupid.
I'd if this is real.
This is going to be one of these dumb videos where... Yeah, dogs do that. Thanks, Anonymous.
In the world, but Japan is really close to that. And by the way, Ukraine has formed a separate Asian volunteer corps, and those guys in particular, they're from Japan. Also, by the way, they're Chinese guys. They're
Yeah, I don't know why this guy is such a fetish for Japan. Everyone's fucking broken poor. Nobody makes any fucking money. And they elect a female prime minister. What does she do? She makes everybody more broken poor. She needed to ask Donald Trump for basically a fucking bailout. Like, it's complete fucking clown show. Japan literally is not a country anymore.
They're also fighting for Ukraine, those guys who are against the Chinese autocracy communist regime. My friends, just a reminder, which is very important. Don't forget to press your huge like to this video right now. Just do it by the time you're watching this video. And also subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to reach 1 million subscribers. Thank you guys for your kind support. And also, if you're willing to, you're very welcome to my Patreon. The link for it is in a video. Thank you so much, and let's continue with the video.
The visit to Eterofu Island, Iterup, by the incumbent president of Russia runs contrary to Japan's consistent position regarding the northern territories. It hurts the feelings of the Japanese people.
Yeah, it hurts the feelings, but Japan, we need to arm you. You are samurais. You did it at the beginning of the previous, but you didn't. Yeah. So I totally disagree with the policy not to arm Japan, because it is very important for that particular country to be defended, because China is huge. North Korea, it has nukes. It's very close to Japan. So there are numerous of the threat for Japan, for Taiwan, for Philippines. The Southeast Asia, again, he commented after the visit, and here he is just, showing off that he can do it, and he will not be punished for that. And guys, what can I say? The sanctions for Russia are not enough. There should be way more. By the way, Putin also threatened to capture some of the European ships of those countries that also capture Russian ships. But Russian ships are legal, if we speak about the Shadow Fleet. But all of the European vessels, they're legal. They have insurances, they're officially registered. It's not the Shadow Fleet. So Putin wants to capture those kind of the tankers or cargo vessels. So, like, what the hell? Military operation in at all. So according to threat to
this guy
current case I'm telling about the
like, this is the most blabbing video I've ever seen from him.
Hey VG, I have a sex addiction problem. I'm pretty good looking and in shape. My question to you is, how do you not have sex addiction problem? You have high levels of testosterone and are a bodybuilder. Girls are easily available to you, I'm sure.
That's nice, thanks.
Schedule of events for every extradition hearing ever, courtesy of a new friend on Twitter, Sassy Southern Blonde, who provided
you. I wonder if there really are kids starving in Japan now that it's broke.
Probably, thanks Dodo.
This chart, starting at day 0 with the arrest. We're currently embedded in the arrow between that event and the detention bail hearing. Although there was another hearing on July 27th that the brothers didn't bother to attend, and that was just to schedule this hearing coming up on August 13th. Motions for that hearing were due by August 5th, but McBride's team missed that deadline, maybe because he was too busy on the interview circuit. He was on Fresh and Fit on July 29th, the Greg Kelly show that was probably taped a couple days prior to this one on August 5th. July 31st, he recorded a podcast for Digital Social Hour, where he thought it would be a great idea to throw a veiled threat at Marco Rubio's son, who was a football player in college. McBride also did 2 videos on his own channel for his 1,800 subscribers, including an hour-long interview with Zach Cummings of the Journey podcast. After failing to meet the August 5th deadline, the legal team filed for an extension to August 7th, finally got their document filed, and then on August 10th, they had to strike it because it inadvertently included personal information that they didn't want published. Remember when we said that we thought McBride was a shitty excuse for a lawyer? Ta-da! As it turns out, the information that needed redacting in that document was the names and personal information of most, if not all, of the alleged victims in Romania that are under seal. And Romania just confirmed with the US DOJ that there are now 46 victims lined up for the Romanian indictment. As Andrew is now charged with child trafficking, and Tristan is charged with aiding and abetting in the trafficking of minors, the names of children could be among those who were doxxed. And just as a reminder, that was worth an additional criminal charge in Romania the last time that McBride pulled that stunt. So when it comes to the Romanian case, the Tates obviously know who every single victim is. With this schedule, and if precedents are kept to, there is no expectation of release on bond, and we fully expect the Tates to remain in detention for the remainder of this process. So what does that look like? Before September 16th of 2026, the UK needs to submit their full paperwork against the Tates. This is the standard allowable 2 months, even though McBride likes to whine about it. And from that point, the schedule goes: the extradition hearing, usually 2 to 6 months after arrest. If the judge certifies extradition, which is probable to an extreme degree given past precedent, she'll hand that decision down shortly after the conclusion of that hearing, possibly immediately, possibly several weeks later. The decision then goes to a habeas corpus petition in a district court, 3 to 9 months later. This is the district court checking all the boxes. Did the extradition judge have jurisdiction? Was the court authorized to handle the case, and was the person properly before it? Is the offense covered by the treaty? Does the charge qualify as an extraditable offense under the US-UK treaty, including dual criminality? And was there any evidence supporting the probable cause finding? If they fail here, they can appeal this decision to the U.S. Court of Appeals, but they'll wait 6 to 12 months to be heard. If they fail there, they can request to be heard again 1 to 3 months later. If they fail again, they can petition the U.S. Supreme Court to hear their pleas, and the court will decide if they're going to bother with them, and it takes 3 to 6 months to decide yes or no. And the final step, after they've exhausted available options, is for the Secretary of State to sign off their surrender, as his predecessors have done, with a perfect record. Then the Tates are on their way to the UK to be incarcerated until their criminal trial, where they face up to life without parole for the slate of crimes for which they already stand accused, with another criminal investigation underway. It is highly unlikely that the Tates would be granted bond pre-trial, given their history and files of charges. Add it all up, at the high end of the
Here to lighten up the mood, let's react to some cute little baby langur monkeys with golden orange hair.
But eventually, all langurs must learn to master the rock face of their time, to the base entirely surrounded. But one day, the
That's nice, thanks, Dodo.
these estimates, and they could be sitting in Miami FDC for a possible 3 years, dated from when the UK submits their formal paperwork. So if the brothers kick and scream at every turn and appeal every opportunity, they could possibly be on their way to the UK sometime in the fall of 2029. And they will be living in Miami FDC until that happens. This rendering is an approximation of the cells that they're currently living in, inside the SHU. You have your cot, stool, desk, and the toilet sink combo. Quite different from the luxury they're used to paying for using the monthly contributions from their incel army. The good news for them is we can probably cut the Supreme Court dates out of the equation. SCOTUS has much better things to do than hear these two degenerates whine their case about not being returned to another country where they hold citizenship. Considering SCOTUS gets 7,000 to 8,000 petitions every year, and they only hear 60 to 80 of them. Call it 1%. They can petition the Supreme Court, nobody's stopping them, but that's going to be another 6 months in the cells that Andrew has been complaining about since day one. And by then, they might be up for a change of scenery to the inside of a British cell instead. Which brings us to the news conference of July 27th of 2026, cut down to the talking points. Apologies for the audio, but Reuters needs a higher AV budget.
As a matter of first impression, we're asking the court and we're asking the government for the underlying papers that accompany the allegations. A lot of bad allegations, a lot of things have been said about Andrew and Tristan Tate. So we're like, where's the proof? Do you have a single solitary document other than the accusations that have been levied against a United Kingdom that hates them? And the answer right now is no.
So we're going to counter his statement with a couple of others. First, the UK, as we've gone over, is not required to have their paperwork submitted in full until September 16th. And you can bet they're going to be triple checking this filing before they do so. Second, the Tates are not being tried in the US. Full evidence logs, details of the victims, etc. will not be received by McBride. The UK does not have to provide full witness statements, full victim testimony, or complete evidence log. Treaty Document 10823, Article 8.3 specifies exactly what does need to be submitted. A copy of the warrant or order of arrest issued by a judge or other competent authority. B, a copy of the charging document. And C, such information as would provide a reasonable basis to believe that the person sought committed the offense for which extradition is sought, setting the US standard of probable cause. What they do not need to provide is the accuser's identities. The High Court in the UK has already ruled CPS can withhold that information from the Tates, maintaining victim anonymity until such time as the Tates are back on UK soil. And the claim that they don't know who the victims are is just more bullshit. And as it turns out, McBride doxed them with the original submission of DE 26. Third, and this is a key one, before the UK writes up an extradition order, every case is put through as many stress tests as possible to make sure the charging file of the 18-month investigation has a more likely chance than not of conviction. The case is put through the full code test as the core charging standard set out in the code for Crown prosecutors, a two-stage test where each must be passed. Stage 1 is the evidential test, where prosecutors must be satisfied there is enough evidence to provide a realistic prospect of conviction. And this would have been applied to every single one of the now 59 charges against the Tate brothers in combination. An objective, impartial, and reasonable jury, bench of magistrates, or judge hearing the case alone, properly directed and acting in accordance with the law, is more likely than not to convict the defendant of the charge alleged. Stage 2 of the test is the public interest test, judging the seriousness of the offense, the harm caused to the victim, the suspect's culpability, and whether prosecution would be proportionate. Obviously, charges such as the Tates are charged with clear this bar with ease. And they must clear that bar with ease before the charge is published in the UK to provide a basis for the extradition order to be drafted.
There's a long-standing court order in effect in Romania, and that court order essentially, in purpose, stays the United Kingdom's extradition proceedings. This is how Andrew and Tate have been traveling across the world for the past several years.
We've been through this before. This claim, 100% bullshit. The Romanian order protected the Tates from being extradited to the UK from Romania, but they didn't stay in Romania, and the UK put an end to the Top G World Tour.
You can do is put in the news over and over again in the media, we need to extradite Andrew Tate. MPs saying, we need to get Andrew Tate. I'm in Hong Kong, and you know I'm here, so come get me. Come extradite me. If you have such a strong case, extradite me. So British government, I'm in Hong Kong. Come fucking get me.
Should Andrew and Tristan beat all the charges in Romania hands down, then Andrew has already agreed that within 30 days, the United Kingdom can extradite him. Andrew stood up in court in March of 2024 or 2023 and said, listen, I am here.
Unfortunately, even these have been caught up in the illegal pet trafficking trade on Facebook. But they've eliminated the system that was on their pages for reporting on it. Also, the thousands of monkeys abuse sites on YouTube also include these babies.
That's not good. Thanks, Dodo.
To participate in the Romanian court process. After this process plays out, I will gladly go to the United Kingdom where I am protected because there are laws there as well.
Well, that should be a huge relief to the UK, that Andrew Tate would agree to be extradited. That's not how it works. Once again, complete ignorance of the law from McBride, thinking that his client had the option to not agree to be extradited. And now, the game has completely changed anyway. Romania can now sit on the sidelines and watch the circus. We're going to skip to a different part to play against this statement.
Solitary confinement is outlawed, prolonged solitary in 16 different states. It is defined as captivity of a human being for 22 hours or more a day in a cell. Prolonged solitary confinement is universally condemned around the world as torture, as a human rights violation. So anytime you keep somebody in solitary confinement, what you're doing is you're keeping them there to break their spirit, to break their soul, and to break the psychology of the mind. It is an egregious misuse of the judicial system. So it's got nothing to do with their ability to defend themselves or this or that. It's got to do with the fact that they put a target on their back for them to get stabbed, jumped, murdered, whatever it is in jail, because that is how jail politics and that is how jail gangs and how the jail economy works. There's a pecking order in jail. It's very real. And when you come in with those allegations, there's no excuses. It's your paperwork says this, therefore you're up for murder. You're fair game.
Okay, so here we've got Joe talking up both sides of his mouth. On one hand, solitary confinement is bad. But at the same time, if they were out in general population, they'd get shanked due to the nature of their charges. Well, they're not getting released on bail, Joe. So which option do you want? Do you want them safe in solitary, or do you want them walking the yard? Pick one. McBride wraps up the Q&A by suggesting that the Tates are being targeted because people are comparing the brothers to Epstein, and that's a huge problem for them.
And every time the public says Andrew and Tristan are just like Epstein, well, guess what? The public is greenlighting for them to get murdered in jail. These allegations against them are the worst for a multitude of reasons, and it's one of the reasons why they're in solitary. We hope to get them out.
The greater problem that Joe has in this regard is who, historically, has been comparing them to Epstein. Tate does. He's dropped Epstein's name a bunch of times, and this post from his prior Twitter account, @Avudan, reads, "Everybody wants to be friends with the pimp. Doubt me? Epstein had access to pussy. Look at his fucking friends list. It's basic human psychology. I have the assets every man who's not a hating bitch wishes they had. And the next best thing to being me is knowing me." A direct comparison to Epstein from Tate himself, so it really does not matter what anybody else has to say on the topic. Here, you're getting it straight from the horse's ass. And just to put a bow on the Epstein complaint that McBride has, while he is outraged that people would compare his clients to Epstein, one of the firms now on the defense team is
It's gotten so banned that even Cambodia is after these YouTubers.
The YouTubers, they produce content relating to the activities of the monkeys, and they have fed the monkeys with food in which, whereas the monkey should be left alone, whereas the monkey should be living in the wild where they're supposed to be live.
Yeah, it's bad. Thanks, dude.
Is the same Miami firm that previously represented Jeffrey Epstein. You really can't make this stuff up. Last minute addition here, the prosecution in this case filed their reply on time, and they did not hold back. Every point we've made in this video, they made 10 times over. Exhibits that we've dug up, they've dug up. Even the video about 17 passports, they transcribed it into evidence. The Fresh and Fit interview with McBride, the one we shredded McBride in back in 2024, being used as proof that the brothers terrorized their reported victims and weaponized the US civil court system against them. So we wait. The next major event on the calendar was supposed to be August 13th, but the defense obviously has panicked after seeing the depth of the government response, and they had to request another 2 weeks to respond to it. Minor leaguer McBride just ran into professional lawyers, and we don't think he knows how to handle it. Now the hearing where the matters of detention and bail will be argued has a date of August 27th, with our expectation that the court will honor the request from the U.S. attorney to keep them in detention for the duration of these proceedings. Being blunt, these two degenerates are not worth the possible embarrassment to the US DOJ that would be caused if they were to escape to a non-extradition treaty country out of reach of the UK after being held as requested in the US. And we already know, thanks to Tate himself, that he does not intend to be under the control of any nation, that he has a network of affiliates ready to assist him, resources at his disposal, and passports for nations around the world that harbor people like him. As for the idea that Trump is going to step in to help the brothers or block the proceedings, the administration has already indicated it will not interfere in the extradition process. That door is closed. One thing that we're going to add before we wrap this up is a feel-good note based on what would happen to the Tate empire if they get convicted in the UK. The UK has a law called POCA, Proceeds of Crime Act 2002. And this act is designed to strip convicted criminals of the financial benefit they gain from their offenses. Everything they own, every business they operate, every asset of the businesses, the works, confiscated. And the word we keyed in on was lifestyle. The court can seize their entire lifestyle if it is determined that the defendant had a criminal lifestyle. So for the judge overseeing those proceedings, we're going to give you your first exhibit.
I'm addicted to webcam models. Now, I've seen a few of these videos about guys who are addicted to webcam models. They're wasting their life savings, they're wasting all their money, they're bankrupting themselves. You see, my relationship with webcam girls is slightly different. Me running a webcam studio, paid for this car, that car, these two cars, and this giant fucking house.
Thanks for tuning into this update episode for our ongoing Matrix of Lies coverage, as we look forward to watching events unfold in a very different way than they did a year ago. We're going to add this as a matter of past, present, and future disclaimer. If anyone takes issue with any of the facts in this episode...
Yeah, looks like they're cooked. They're probably gonna get locked up. It's Neo Berlin.
It fragments it. Something happened that night.
Looks like kind of a weird game. I'm not sure if that's going to be any good.
It's funny how YouTube goes after you for calling out harmers but is totally fine with people pouring ice cold water on dogs and abusing baby monkeys. This website is a disgrace.
YouTube's just fucking stupid. Thanks, Toto.
4chan has garnered a deeply negative reputation. Many believe the website offers refuge to the most depraved, antisocial weirdos the internet has to offer. But some users take this dynamic to a whole new level. The website has a history of various criminals documenting their violent crimes on the forums. Some of these sickos have since been arrested, while others...
Yeah, I remember there was a serial killer posting photos of like mutilated corpses. Just fucking deranged lunatics.
still walk the streets to this very day. Thankfully, our first subject is behind bars for good, although it tragically came at the cost of his girlfriend's life. On November 4th of 2014, one of the most unnerving threads in 4chan history was published. Attached was an image of what appeared to be a naked woman lying on a bed, dead. Markings on her body indicated foul play. The poster left a caption. Turns out it's way harder to strangle someone to death than it looks in the movies. 2 minutes later, he got his first reply. Duh, because those people are acting. Less than a second later, the original poster returned with another angle of the supposed corpse, captioned, "She fought so damn hard." Many of the first replies seemed to believe the post was a prank, as this type of stunt is pretty common on the platform. One asserted that they had seen the image before, while another said it looked fake. Needless to say, the board was unimpressed. But the original poster came back 8 minutes after he began the thread with his third post. It contained yet another image of what he claimed to be a dead woman, along with a longer caption. Check the news for Port Orchard, Washington in a few hours. Her son will be home from school soon. He'll find her, then call the cops. I just wanted to share the pics before they find me. I bought a BB gun that looks realistic enough. When they come, I'll pull it, and it will be death by cop. I understand the doubts. Just check the news. I have to lose my phone now. Users were still skeptical, asking him to timestamp it. They wanted him to write "What's up, B" on a piece of paper and take a photo of it to prove that the images were original. But the poster never returned, instead leaving them to debate amongst themselves whether it was real or not. But then they got a lead. 4 hours later, one user linked a news article from an outlet in Washington state. It stated that a woman in her 30s was found dead by a family member and that photos of the corpse had been posted to an anonymous
Are you okay, dude?
Yep, thanks.
image board before being tweeted at local news stations. The article then directly quoted the thread, referencing the original poster's claim that her son would find the body.
Anytime we have images of this graphic nature that are posted on social media and perpetrate to be this crime scene, we are going to take those seriously.
But the police did not reveal their suspect for the time being. Now that it was confirmed, the thread became much more active, as users shared a website to listen in on police radio chatter, wanting every detail of the investigation. One user guessed the killer would take the coward's way out, while another anon said, "I bet he's at a bar, having a beer, laughing at us." But some users would realize the gravity of the situation when an article was posted confirming that the police had their suspect in custody. David Kalak, a 33-year-old man with a domestic violence record. His victim was Amber Lynn Coplin, his girlfriend and a mother of 5 children from a previous relationship. While a few users in the thread recognized what had just happened, many of them missed this post and were still under the belief that David was on the run. As a result, they continued listening to the police radio from another jurisdiction. In a suburb of Portland, Oregon, someone had made a report saying that they spotted David Kalak, leading cops to surround a home and search it. News of the 4chan killer being on the loose spread across the boards, as the police broadcast stream peaked at almost 6,000 anons listening. People were holding in their piss, skipping work to watch it all go down, until they realized he had been arrested the entire time, and this was simply a false sighting. One anon wrote, "Listening to the wrong radio. This gets better. I love you guys." With it being officially confirmed that the perpetrator was in custody, the next question naturally is, why did he do it? What makes this case so strange is that David claims he doesn't even remember the event that put him behind bars for the rest of his life. By all accounts, including his own, David Kalak was an alcoholic. At one point while intoxicated, he drunkenly picked a fight with someone and was beaten so badly he had to be airlifted to a hospital in Seattle. During another, he crashed his car while drunk. His only saving grace was his girlfriend, Amber, who not only bailed him out of jail, but also tried to take the blame for what happened, telling police that she had been behind the wheel instead of him. During another arrest, he kicked out the windows of a squad car and smashed his head through a window. It's not surprising that David had other bad habits as well. He was formerly a meth user for 6 years and was prone to violence. Amber's friends claimed he had punched her in the face at one point, knocking her unconscious. The neighbors claimed that arguments between the two were a nightly occurrence. According to court records, David and Amber had an argument on the night of November 3rd. Her son later stated that it was over Amber wanting David to move out. At the same time, the documents state that she had recently undergone an abortion, which may have been a factor. Amber's son woke up at 6 a.m. the next day to see that David was gone and that his mother's bedroom door was closed. Nothing unusual given she got up for work after he left. But while at school, he got an uneasy feeling and wanted to go home. He texted his mother to no response, so from there he called his biological father, who took him to Amber's apartment. There, his mother's door was still shut, and a foul stench was emanating from under the door. Inside, he found his mother's body, just like David said he would from his post on 4chan. There were a few other disturbing details about the crime scene as well. David had taken Amber's driver's license and written the word "dead" on it, also writing "She killed me first" on a photo hanging on the wall. The blinds were let down, with the words "bad news" tattoos written on them. Given the clear sign of a struggle, police knew it was a homicide and began their investigation. David killed Amber sometime in the early minutes of November 4th, 2014, taking the photos at 1:07 and 1:09 a.m. From there, he stole Amber's car and texted one of his friends saying he had done something bad that would end up on the news soon. He turned off his phone, believing he wouldn't be traceable by doing so, and then made a few pit stops. First, to a convenience store to buy vodka and orange juice. Then he went to Walmart for a BB gun, the same one he planned to use for his end-of-life standoff with law enforcement. He sat in the parking lot for about 30 minutes, during which he made his post to 4chan. In a somewhat funny but also dark coincidence, he then made his way to Portland, Oregon, where he spent several hours at a bar, just like One Anon said he would. But his relaxation was short-lived, as police spotted his stolen car. He began a high-speed chase, driving erratically into oncoming traffic to the point that the cops gave up, fearing that by pursuing him, other civilians would be injured. Once the chase ended, David abandoned Amber's car and set up a small camp in the woods. On a box spring, he wrote, "Dave's last stand," while on a piece of paper, he wrote, "I killed Amber Copland. I strangled her with my hands, then a shoelace. I had no reason other than I was drunk and she pissed me off. Running from the cops was so fun." David told court psychologists that he had taken around 20 to 25 pills of trazodone, a relatively strong sleeping medication. While he intended to take his own life, he instead woke up on a cold mattress in the middle of the woods. Shortly thereafter, he turned himself in. In court, David's lawyers admitted that he committed the homicide. He said that while his memory of events was sparse, he did have flashes here and there, confirming he had done the crime. His defense tried to argue that he had a diminished capacity, essentially saying that because he had such a severe drinking problem, it would be impossible for him to plan the killing ahead of time. The jury didn't buy it, as he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 82 years in prison. In the months following his arrest, the case was widely reported on as the 4chan killer. This is because just a few months prior, the site had gotten in hot water after it hosted photos from the fappening, an iCloud hack where hundreds of celebrities had their intimate photos posted for all to see. As a result, there was an increased interest in David and Amber's case, purely due to the online nature of it and its association with the most controversial image board of its time. This aspect ultimately piqued the interest of a small YouTube channel called Killer's Crawlspace. They managed to make contact with David in prison and even conducted an interview with him over the phone in 2022.
Right before my crime, which was, first-degree murder, I stayed drunk for, it must have been 8 months straight. Still not even sure to this day how I managed to hold down a job. But all that led up to me killing my girlfriend.
One thing that's easy to notice is that David has a very different recollection of events than everyone else. He claims that the two didn't frequently argue or get physical, which directly contradicts what Amber's friend said, which included him punching her in the nose and one attempted drowning. As for the day of the crime itself, he says he remembers waking up and drinking immediately before going to his job, which was carpentry and painting. He stopped to get some drinks on the way home, but claims to have no recollection of arriving at the house or the argument that night.
I remember like a flash of having my hands around her neck, right? I don't remember the act of actually strangling anybody.
He goes on to say he does have a vague memory of his.
What are your thoughts on front-loading test? I'm thinking about doing it to get my levels up in the first 4 to 6 weeks and not waste cycle time.
Go for it. Give yourself high blood pressure, acne, and gyno. Don't care. Thanks, Kyle.
His chase with police and being in the woods before he ultimately turned himself in. David says that while he agrees he deserved to go to prison for what he did, 82 years is excessive.
It sure looked like it was me that did this crime, and I can understand doing time for that. 100%. I can understand doing, a large portion of years for that, but 82 for something that I can't even remember doing seems excessive.
While multiple sources confirm his alcohol problem, it's questionable if he truly has no memory of the crime he committed. In any case, it's for the best he's in prison, as whether he can recall it or not, Amber's life was cut brutally short, and whatever state David was in not only compelled him to kill her, but also to post photos of her corpse online for all to see, undoubtedly scarring her friends, family, and children for years to come. Despite David's questionable past, no one in his life assumed he was willing to actually kill someone. Unfortunately, the same applies to Neil Allen McInnes, despite having far worse warning signs. By looking at Neil's community college profile page, you wouldn't think he was destined for a life of jail time. He writes that he was going to school for computer graphics and web design, and that he made the website himself. He says he likes going on walks, he has a cat, and he spends his free time building websites. One day, I hope to work in New York City or another big city. I want to make websites for a living and make graphics in my spare time. In pursuit of his education and working a part-time job at Old Navy, there was little reason to suspect Neil had something darker beneath the surface. But his family was aware of serious psychological issues he had stretching back several years. The trouble seemingly began in high school, when for reasons unknown to the general public, Neil became depressed and attempted to take his own life. Around the same time, he began planning a massacre at his high school, only being unable because he wasn't old enough to purchase firearms on his own. He ended up writing down his plans, which were discovered by his parents and given to his therapist. Throughout his teenage years, Neil made 2 more attempts on his own life, and was eventually placed in a rehab center until his mental health improved. Thankfully, after continued therapy, he was able to leave the facility, and he got better to the point that his psychologist psychologist took him off the medication he had been taking. It seems like he had a pretty bright future ahead of him until he decided to throw it all away. On April 12th of 2013, a thread was made to the B board of 4chan. Hey B, it's me. My name is Neil McGinnis, and I go to New River Community College in Christiansburg, Virginia, 10 minutes away from Virginia Tech. I'm gonna give you all the details because the news never gets it right. Stevens 320 shotgun, buckshots and slugs. Want to listen? After this, he attaches a Broadcastify link. This is the same website that users in the previous entry would use to listen in on police activity. This link led to the New River Valley Public Safety broadcast to local law enforcement in Virginia, where Neil is from. He continues, I'm a bit nervous because I've never really handled a shotgun, but a few times with the Christiansburg police. Anyways, this is not a high score game, but actually a lesson. That's why I'm at school. Bizarrely, he then links his community college profile page before saying he doesn't think taking his own life will be necessary in the shooting. From here, people who saw the thread began listening to the police radio and quickly realized that this was no hoax. Is this legit? The public safety link is actually on about someone at a college in jeans and a hoodie with a shotgun. Am I hearing what I think I'm hearing? They captured him. They were talking about a guy with a shotgun who shot someone. I think it's a recording though, because I checked all their local news sites and there's no reports yet. I'm in Sydney. It's 5 a.m. Thought I was gonna go to bed, but nope. I hope OP gets brutally and horrifyingly murdered and he doesn't kill a single person. Ultimately, only half of this wish would come true. Neil's post on B was made at 1:52 p.m., 3 minutes before the shooting began. Neil entered the mall where his community college was housed with a 12-gauge shotgun, raised it, and began shooting at people. It took 4 shots before he realized the safety was on, enough time for his immediate targets to escape. One girl, Taylor Sharp, was 4 feet away from him when he pulled the trigger, but thanks to the delay, she was able to put some distance between them. Ultimately, she was still wounded in the chest and received.
Safeties on a shotgun are right next to the fucking trigger. Like, how do you fuck that up? That is such a weird, bizarre, retarded mistake. Like, this guy is actually fucking stupid. I've seen people make the mistake of, like, leaving a safety on a 1911 style pistol or any pistol with a thumb safety. Because especially on some pistols, like, the thumb safety can be mistaken for, like, the slide release and shit like that. And if you don't have much experience with guns, it can confuse you. But, like, a shotgun, it's just right next to the trigger. It's a button. So, like, this guy's actually a retard.
A permanent hand injury, but she survived the ordeal. The other woman shot was Christina B in the back. After playing dead, she was able to get up and run. By this point, almost everyone else nearby had scattered, so Neil began stalking the halls looking for any sign of life. He fired into one room, although he didn't manage to hit anyone. Upon finding a locked door, he tried pretending to be a victim himself to get inside, saying, "Help, he's gonna get me, let me in." Unfortunately for him, former Marine James Gorman, the mall security director, had found him. He was unarmed and simply started yelling at Neil to get down, and surprisingly, he complied. Gorman tackled him, and the police got there shortly after. Despite the injuries caused, we can be thankful there were no deaths during Neil's shooting. From here, the authorities began picking apart what led to it happening in the first place. During a police interview directly following the attack, he stated that he had an out-of-body experience while it happened, describing himself as being blacked out. "I was just like, doing it," he said. In the aftermath, it was determined that he had lied to his doctors when he said he didn't have homicidal thoughts, intentionally avoiding medication so that his negative feelings would fester. His mental issues appeared more severe than anyone realized, as while he was in jail awaiting trial, he had delusions of shooting imaginary people and, quote, wanting to lie under his victims' bodies and feel their blood on him until he felt like a god during the shootings. One strange detail I'd like to add is that before the shooting, he withdrew $300 and left it at his job at Old Navy, with a note that said, "For anyone who needs it." While his history of poor mental health and previous homicidal ideation were taken into account, most prominent was a series of videos he recorded before the attack. They were never posted online, instead recorded to his laptop 48 hours before his 4chan post. In them, he reportedly complained about mundane life nuisances, rude Walmart employees, his long-distance relationship with an ex-girlfriend, and various rejections from other women. But the most prominent topic was shootings themselves. He compared himself to notorious gunmen like Virginia Tech, Columbine, and the Aurora shooter before saying that it's too easy to purchase guns and the schools need better security. "I'm not saying we need cops in schools, but we need to have something where people can't hurt people," he said. "It's just real easy to get guns." In the videos, he said he spent his previous weekend getting the gun he would use for his crime, but says that if he hadn't been able to get it, he would have just taken his own life. Finally, he considered how the attack would actually play out, fantasizing about pulling the fire alarm to draw people outside so he could open fire on a crowd. These videos were played in court in front of the victims, their families, and his own parents. While his family cried, he reportedly showed no emotion, although he did tell the victims to stay strong and said he would accept any treatment given to him. He was ultimately sentenced to 68 years in prison, but is eligible for parole in 38. He was also ordered to pay almost $150,000 in total to the victims. If he does make parole, then he'll be released on probation at 56 years of age. Although I have to say, considering his crime, the sentence seems exceedingly lenient. A YouTuber who went to the same college, Zyback TV, uploaded a video when it happened, stating that one of his friends had skipped class that day to play the DLC for an at the time popular Star Wars game. He remarks that had his friend been more responsible, he could have met his end that day. To this day, it's unknown why Neil made his post to 4chan, although Occam's razor would dictate he wanted attention for his crime. Seeking notoriety seems to be a trend among those who document their crimes on the website, and our next subject is no exception. On August 21st of 2015, an anonymous user posted an image.
These people do this shit because, like, they're just the biggest fucking losers imaginable. So, you know, this is their one attempt where they think they can get any kind of attention.
Contained a graduation photo of a young woman next to a photo of a woman lying down on a bed. She was covered in blood and appeared to be deceased. There was also a timestamp piece of paper underneath it with a poster writing /B August 21st, 05. The caption read, "I have killed several women for pleasure. If you can guess the name of any of these women, I will upload their photo. No more than 10 names per post. Any more than that will be ignored. Some are Polaroids and others were taken with a disposable camera. I also have pictures of them before death when I was able to do so. If you guess all of the names, I will show you where I dumped a body in 1999. The first one is free, as her name is unlikely to be guessed." As I mentioned previously, 4chan is known for trolling and shit posts, so the first few replies were very skeptical. However, some did try playing along with the game, posting their best guesses. One guessed Shannon, Kelly, Madison, Courtney, Trisha, to which the original poster replied, "Wow, off to a great start. Incredible. I fixed my timestamp, my mistake." Attached was a photo of the same piece of paper, now with the timestamp fixed to reflect the right date, and a photo of a woman's body. She appeared mostly unclothed, once again lying on a bed, completely brutalized. While some users still tried calling this poster's bluff, the photos themselves were pretty convincing, so certain anons began asking real questions as to what was going on. How could you get these photos developed with a disposable camera? It's required to alert the police to anything weird going on in any photo that is developed. The original poster initially ignored his question, instead replying to his own post with a new photo, captioned, "This is from before I played with her." It shows a cardboard box with a woman stuffed inside of it face down, her feet sticking out at awkward angles, obviously deceased. He then replied to the previous post as to how the photos were made, simply saying, "I developed them." People tried making sense of what was going on, with one anon speculating that they were crime scene photos and the OP was just messing around with old evidence. Others kept submitting more names, but apparently nobody was able to.
Lats are a really stupid injection site. There's a ton of veins and nerve endings in that area, and you're very likely just going to have some kind of injury or complication from injecting in that area. So just inject the delts and the glutes. Lats are a dumb injection site.
To guess correctly. This wouldn't stop the OP from returning once more. His newest caption was, "Isn't she pretty?" accompanied by a few images. At the bottom of the screen, the same photograph of a woman stuffed into a box is visible, and on the top layer is a picture of a woman on a bed. This time, she's alive, smiling at the camera. Underneath it is an extremely creepy image of what looks like a decaying corpse with puffy and exaggerated features. All in all, I'd hate to rank these photos in terms of how disturbing they are, but this one is definitely as unsettling as all the rest. It began dawning on users that even if the OP was pulling some kind of practical joke, the photos looked like real dead people. The rest of the initial thread was people guessing more names, although the OP disappeared back into the dark recesses for the time being. Whoever he was, he had officially piqued the interest of 4chan's user base. So much so that a few hours later, a new thread was made on X, the paranormal board. Ready to catch a killer, X? This was posted on B a few hours ago. He attached a screenshot of the thread and all of the photos the OP had submitted, and people began trying to figure out anything they could. Their best guess at the time was still the crime scene photo theory, although they did note the lack of evidence markers, which would usually be present. If the evidence photos theory is true, it's likely they are as-is photos. The initial image is taken of a crime scene before any markers are placed. Of course, the question still remains who was posting them. A police officer? Someone with access to evidence who decided to pull a prank? Others gave out the possibility that this was a real serial killer, noting that such cases often involved an attention-seeking element, like when the Zodiac killer sent ciphers to newspapers. One detail they did notice was writing on the sheets of one photo, reading,
Yeah, I saw Trump's executive order on vaccines. Remarkably out of this world. Irretrievably stupid and just flat out retarded. You cannot get any fucking dumber. That administration is just so fucking crazy.
CA Textile, but the company they tried matching it to sold nationwide and had a different print on their linens anyway. With that lead going nowhere, they noticed that at least on the surface level, the woman in the graduation photo did appear to be the same woman lying down on a bed with blood all over her, fully clothed. Upon first glance, they had the same hair, same facial features, and they thought it looked like she was wearing the same necklace. One user de-warped the graduation photo and posted it to make it easier to reverse image search, allowing another anon to make the first big discovery. So, X, I got news for you. I identified the graduation photo victim. This means two things. One, this guy is actually the killer, since the police found this girl's body next to a road.
I wouldn't recommend injecting your biceps. You're probably just going to have a lot of post-injection pain. It's also a pretty small muscle that, like, it just isn't going to be able to hold a large volume of oil anyway, so I don't know why the fuck you do that. Some of these bodybuilders, what they do is they use test propionate to, like, kind of like synthol, basically. And they try to put as much oil into whatever muscle head they're trying to target as they can. And apparently that can help, like, volumize the muscle, sort of. I would not recommend doing that. It's like a dumb bodybuilder thing. But yeah, just inject into your delts and glutes. If you're really experienced and you know what you're doing and you're kind of, like, out of options, if you have, like, a really high injection volume, you can try your quads. But I would just avoid stuff like biceps, lats. It just doesn't seem to be a good injection site. A lot of people end up having problems there.
In Las Vegas. 2, we have a new lead. Here we go. Victim named Shauna Maynard, found in Las Vegas in 1999. The graduation photo was, in fact, an exact match.
Which would you choose between your current admin in Canada and the Trump admin in the US? I'd choose Trump over Carney any day. As bad as Trump is on the economy, guess what? Carney's fucking worse. Canada is more broke than ever. We're poorer than Americans are, so as bad as, like, Trump is making it, guess what? Carney's way fucking worse. And on top of that, well, guess what? You have rights in the United States. If somebody tries to break into your home and kill you, you can grab a gun and shoot them. In Canada, no, if you shoot a home invader, they'll prosecute you. So in the, like, liberal fucking shithole that is Canada, they love criminals, they love promoting crime, and as soon as you try to defend yourself, loved ones, home, and possessions, they'll just prosecute you and then let the criminals back out on the street. So again, even with all the fucking trade-offs with, like, dumb Trump US administration, at least you're, like, given some amount of human dignity where you're, like, allowed to live if somebody breaks into your home.
Shauna Maynard went missing 17 years before the 4chan post in April of 1998. She was 17 years old, having run away from her California home after an argument with her parents. She was living with several other women at an apartment complex in Las Vegas, while working at a restaurant to get by. Her parents had no idea where she was, as she and her friends completely cut them off from information. What we do know is that around 2 a.m. on April 21st, one of her friends received a call saying that there was a...
Thoughts on Poland? There's a lot of, like, dumb, retarded shit with their politics. The one thing they're based on is their border policy, but there's a lot of weird shit with their politics.
12 kilograms DA versus 1.7 ton rhino.
Yeah, they're friends. They're playing. It's funny how gentle the rhino is. Yeah, he knows he's a little guy and he has to be careful. It's pretty funny, eh? Wow, they're friends. It's pretty amazing.
The most disturbing things happening in science right now, and almost no one is talking about it. That's why we made this video. You're looking at a computer in a laboratory called Cortical Labs. It's playing Doom. But look closer. There's nobody playing it. Or actually, there is, they just can't get out. They are trapped there because this computer is running on living human brain cells, and those cells are the ones playing. So why would anyone build a computer out of brain cells? It basically comes down to power. AI uses a massive amount of electricity, and that number keeps going up.
Amazon investing another $15 billion.
Meta continuing its massive investments in AI, this time in the form of compute power.
The computing power it takes to train these models roughly doubles every 6 months. Almost nothing in the real world grows that fast, but you can't build power plants that quickly. So there's a growing gap between what AI needs and what we can actually supply, and it keeps getting wider. You can see the panic in what the big companies are doing. They're going after energy now, not just better software. Old nuclear plants that got shut down years ago are being turned back on just to power them. Companies are signing deals to lock up huge chunks of the grid years ahead of time. It's not really a race for smarter AI anymore, it's turning into a race for electricity. So a few researchers went a totally different direction. They looked at the brain.
Yes, add music because I'm a retard, and if I don't hear dumb fucking loud music, I'm gonna lose interest. Yeah, they're just using neurons to basically do the same computing thing. I've seen some of this shit.
One real doubt, and grow them. There was another big step.
The really big advantage with these neuron-based computers, it's not just the lack of power consumption. The real benefit is they're basically pre-programmed. So they're much better at certain tasks. Like, they don't really need the type of training that a normal like AI data center would need. So if you select for a certain group of neurons, they're going to be able to like allow a robot to walk or something much easier than if you were to just train some fucking AI algorithm. So yeah, I think for certain applications, the neuron-based computers are going to become a big thing. Just because they're more efficient at certain tasks. It's not just because of the lack of power consumption. Thanks, though, SV.
A problem at her apartment, believed by police to be an argument between Shauna and someone else. Around 3 a.m., an officer reported hearing a gunshot in the dark. Shauna's body was found the next day about 15 miles from her apartment. She had been shot multiple times, including in the face. She didn't have any belongings with her, and her apartment had been cleared out of her possessions. Her parents' best guess was that someone tried to come onto her, and she declined, leading to the argument and her death. Although there's no direct evidence to support this theory. The week of her death, the Las Vegas police were asking the public for any information about her slaying, and as of the thread being posted to 4chan, her case was still unsolved. While the Anons attempted to match other photos in the post to other missing women, ultimately Shauna was the only confirmed match. If the photos were truly of her body, they would have had to be taken between the hours of 3 a.m. when the gunshots were reported and the time when the police found her body on the side of the road that morning. However, the woman in the image didn't appear to have any gunshot wounds, and this also wouldn't account for the other pictures, which appeared to be of different people. A third, fourth, and fifth thread was created, speculating that the killer or the original poster, if they were even related, was either from Northern California or Las Vegas, based on the fact that she ran away from her home of California to Las Vegas. All of their internet detective work would mount in an infographic that was being spread across 4chan at the time, putting together the small amount of information they had. It reads, "We know that the photo of the high school grad is Shauna Maynard, but we don't know for sure that the girl on the bed is 100% her. There are reports that Shauna Maynard was shot on scene in Vegas and that an officer heard the gunfire. Why would the killer torture her or fake photos of her only to kill her on a Vegas strip where he could potentially be heard or seen?" While thread after thread was posted, ultimately very little information was gleaned from the collective work of X's user base. There were still so many unknowns. Who were the women in the other photographs? If none of the women were Shauna, then why include a photo of her specifically? Then, almost 24 hours on the dot after the first post, he returned to B. The caption this time was simply, "Dying. Dying." The attached photo had a new timestamp, this one correct, as well as another developed photo. This one was of a man lying on a bed with blood covering his face. It looks like he's holding something up to the camera, but his eyes are obscured by a ripped up piece of paper placed over it. 8 minutes later, another post. This one shows the same man at a closer angle, once again with blood on his lips. Behind it is another photo, and although it's partially covered, it appears to be a woman lying down. Her shirt is pulled up to expose her bra, and once again it appears that she's been battered, although the rest of the image is cut off. Based on her shirt and the necklace, it seems like it's the same woman from the first post, which user users at the time were speculating to be Shauna Maynard. Weirdly, the poster mistakenly wrote 2005 on this piece of paper as well, just like he did in the first post. 3 minutes later, he made a new reply. I'll be back in a month to finish our game. If it is not this exact timestamp with an updated date, it is not me. Attached here is the most unique out of all the images uploaded. A man in a red ski mask with sunglasses on, holding a shotgun pointed at the camera. From the photo, we can see he's white and he may have brown hair based on part of his eyebrow being visible, but that's about it. He left shortly thereafter and the thread was archived before a new discussion thread was made to X. Despite the original poster's bravado, from here, people grew more skeptical of who he was. They pointed out differences between the graduation photo of Shauna and the dead lady it was posted with, like their necklaces actually being different upon closer inspection. They also pointed out that the supposed killer was basically edging people with information now without giving away anything real for them to look into. At the time, this case inspired a video by YouTube channel Gloomy House, as well as a few Reddit threads that got a good amount of attention. Back in the threads on B and X, users themselves said they had submitted tips to the FBI. So with this much traction and direct contact to investigators, it was only a matter of time before they weighed in. On September 28th of 2015, a local Las Vegas news station reported that the entire thing was a hoax. However, the information they gave was very vague. In regards to the OP being Shauna Maynard's killer, they simply said, Las Vegas police officials tell Action News the claim is not valid, but they wouldn't elaborate. From there, it stated that the LVPD had hired 2 retired detectives to look into Shauna's case again, and whoever the poster was, they undoubtedly caused a lot of emotional turmoil for her family.
Metro officials say the post is not valid, but they wouldn't elaborate. According to retired Metro Lieutenant Randy Sutton, the hoax probably won't hurt a cold case, but it would waste a lot of time and resources.
True as this may be, there are still so many questions left unanswered. If the photos of dead people weren't Shauna, then who were they? Are they real corpses at all? Why did the poster specifically choose a printed picture of her to pair with the photos when there are plenty of others who have gone missing in Las Vegas who we could have chosen? Where are the photos from in the first place? One explanation is that someone stole images from an evidence locker somewhere, or maybe a police officer took his work home and one of his kids decided to play a sick joke on his favorite image board. Maybe this was a real killer on the loose, and the cops were waiting to confirm more information, not wanting to tip off the public and spoil the investigation. But if that had been the case, you'd think we would have found out by now. To this day, it's unknown who made these posts, and given it's been a decade since the Saw went down, it's likely we'll never have a solid explanation unless the poster himself comes forward to explain himself. But not every disturbing poster hides behind a mask. Some not only brag about their crimes, but also don't even try to hide who they are. In 2017, Marcel Hess was what most people would expect the typical 4chan user to be. He was an antisocial 19-year-old who spent late nights on his computer, playing games and talking about his interests online. He came from a low-income family, with his parents receiving welfare benefits, and Marcel himself seemed to lack motivation for anything. He never had a job or pursued higher education, instead spending his time inside. To some, his appearance mirrored the typical shooter archetype, wearing military clothing and boots around town. This is because the one aspiration he did have was to join the German army, to which he applied in the fall of 2016. Unfortunately for him, the application was rejected, so he resolved to take his own life. But both of his attempts failed, and as a result, he turned his anger at himself outwards. So he went to the neighbor's house where he found their grade school son. Marcel lured him to his house by asking for help with a ladder. He brought him inside his home and then stabbed him 58 times. As gruesome as this is on its own, much more disturbing were early reports that he had filmed the entire attack. During that fateful day, Marcel had been messaging one of his friends on WhatsApp. He began by asking him what method of taking himself out would be more effective, a toaster in the bathtub or carbon monoxide. Attached is an image of a knife, the same he would ultimately use for his crime. As we know, he didn't successfully follow through with either of his attempts, so he went on to kill his neighbor. In the chats, he reportedly sent photos of his lifeless body, and we can see him sending his friend an audio message, which has since been preserved on YouTube. I can't be bothered anymore, he says. I don't want to work. That's pretty much the only reason. I ought to be writing job applications soon, but nah, I just can't manage that whole grind. I mean, I could just take myself out right now, but I actually just killed the neighbor. Honestly, it doesn't feel that big of a deal. To be honest, my hand is bleeding now, and that's the only thing bothering me. Just wash the blood off. One of my shoes is still bloody, but that's about it. I figure I'll turn myself in somewhere in a few days and then enjoy life in prison. Maybe I'll lure another neighbor over and do the same thing. Then I'll have 2 murders on my conscience. He goes on to say that his insides, meaning his organs, felt very strange, and he thought about pulling out his own entrails. He followed this up by sending his friend another photo of the knife he used, and showing the blood on his boots. Was totally easy, he says. Can turn 1 murder into 2. Getting rid of my SIM card now. See you, space cowboy. His friend says he doesn't know what to do, and instead of calling the police, he's going to ask B for help. Great idea. On the same day Jaden was killed, Marcel's friend posted to the random board of 4chan. A friend of mine wanted to plan his death, but then he killed the neighbor. WTF, B? Alongside it, he shared the chat logs, which quickly spread across the boards. Jaden's family returned home to find him missing, leading his stepfather to go searching for him, and eventually find his body in the basement of Marcel's house, immediately starting a nationwide manhunt. The video he had recorded of the murder had also reportedly been posted to a darknet forum, where it was then further distributed online. Although this specific detail disappeared from German reporting with time, so I'm guessing the only posts were made to 4chan. Marcel hid in the woods before going to his friend friend Christopher's house. They had gone to school together, and Chris hadn't heard anything about the crime thus far, given it had just happened. As a result, he agreed to let Marcel stay there for a few days. That night, as an autopsy was performed on his victim's body, and police desperately searched the area for the killer, Marcel and Christopher were inside playing video games. They went to bed, but by the next morning, his friend obviously became aware of the news pretty quick, given how far it was spreading online. He confronted Marcel, who in response stabbed him 68 times, killing him. Instead of fleeing, Marcel stayed in the apartment with his friend's body. Outside the walls, the police were searching anywhere they could. Part of the issue with their investigation was so many false reports being filed. At one point, someone posing as Marcel posted an image on 4chan claiming to be at a train station. The police figured out which one and searched it, finding nothing. They similarly searched a hospital and a school, all to no avail. All the while, posts like this were making the rounds. I'm up now, barely slept a wink due to nerves. It's about to start. I'll try to upload the video at 8 o'clock, and at 8:30, I'll be in a public square trying to take as many people as possible along to Valhalla. I hope I manage to entertain you guys as well. While photos of the following posts are hard to come by, many sources state that Marcel was repeatedly posting to 4chan in the time after he killed Christopher. In the afternoon of Tuesday, March 7th, 2017, 24 hours after killing Jaden, and only half a day after Chris's death, he supposedly posted photos of Chris's corpse to B. He also claimed to have killed a third person, this time a woman, and then traveled 80 kilometers by train to escape the immediate area. To prove that it was him, he sent timestamped photos of Christopher's body, although there were no photos of the female victim, as there never was one. Police believe Marcel lied to divert their attention from the immediate area. This is where we get his supposed manifesto, also posted to the boards. Hey beatards and Polacks, I've been reading along nearly all of the threads of my deeds on B while sorting the fridge in my flat I'm currently at. Finally done setting up PayPal and Amazon, ordered tons of food and some first aid stuff. Not for my hosts, naturally. The police and media, not that there is any difference, have been calling me power hungry and very unstable. However, I feel rational. Since before my killings and even after, I cleaned up a good part of this place, never bothered to at home. I'm focusing my thoughts on what my situation is and how to improve, not on mindlessly murdering pedestrians. I know this isn't Grand Theft Auto. I also know it takes time for people to die when shanked. Silencing them and looting them while also making sure nobody notices like in Hitman is near impossible. If I wanted to exert power fantasies, I wouldn't in the spur of the moment waste a kid. I'd get good in CSGO or something. Did people find my Steam yet? Sorry psychologist, but while my statements shouldn't be taken at face value, I don't think I fit your gets bullied and lashes out at nearest target MO. I always stood up to my bullies and became one myself. I got what I wanted. I'll not need to contribute to society via becoming an upstanding citizen. The economies work mostly by forced altruism, and I have zero interest in taking part of sustaining something so useless. I'm a hedonist. At the same time, I'd consider myself an existential nihilist. The universe doesn't care if some kid dies, or planet Earth. Even at a body count of 5, murder doesn't feel special to me. And with that, let the continued activities of the devious Marsaru entertain my friends on the dark web. P.S. I do feel proud of becoming a meme though. Marcel eventually got tired of sitting in Christopher's apartment with his body all day. So after 48 hours, he set fire to it before walking down the street to a Greek restaurant. He immediately told the owner who he was, the police were called, and he was arrested. During questioning, investigators described him as ice cold and emotionless. He readily confessed to both murders, but after questioning remained silent during the entire length of his trial. His lawyer's best argument was that he was not mature enough to be tried as an adult, which in Germany the courts determine as 21 years of age, but ultimately nobody bought it. He was sentenced to life in prison. The biggest question in this next case is actually if it has anything to do with 4chan at all. In late 2008, this image macro began circulating on 4chan, Reddit, and other forums. The top left shows a thread started with an image of a young girl, and the caption, "If anyone can guess their post number, I will tell you where she's buried." Each reply on 4chan has a corresponding number, and we can see poster after poster submitting their guesses before someone apparently got it right. WinRAR, the OP says, before leaving a set of coordinates. Following the red arrow takes us to the coordinates being put into Google Maps, which shows the coordinates are about 50 miles east of El Dorado. Finally, an article is attached, showing that the girl from the thread had been found dead about 50 miles east of El Dorado, Kansas. The girl in the post is Emily Sander. She was an 18-year-old student at Butler Community College in El Dorado who seemed to have a pretty typical life. Her website writes, she had just started college and was looking forward to getting her degree so she could move back home to Texas where all her friends and family were. On the night of November 3rd, 2007, she went to a Chinese restaurant with her friends in El Dorado where they met a 24-year-old named Israel Morales. He worked at a restaurant nearby and was staying in a motel. From there, she and Israel made their way to a bar, and they were reportedly seen going back to Israel's motel room. Hours later, the motel manager stopped by the room to find a torn screen and broken window. Inside, he found blood on the carpet, bed, and walls, as well as the bedspread missing. Meanwhile, Israel Morales was driving Emily 50 miles east of El Dorado. He dumped her body on the side of the road before taking off to evade capture. She wasn't found until days later, by which point Israel was the police's main suspect. But by then, he had fled for the southern border with his 16-year-old pregnant girlfriend. Apparently, the guy got around. While this case is horrific on its own, the media took a particular interest in it because of Emily's side gig. I mentioned her website earlier. It was actually created to host her own adult content. Apparently, she had it set up in such a way that people from her area wouldn't be able to access it, and she kept its knowledge relegated to a few close friends. But at the time, this kind of thing was considered much more scandalous. You gotta remember, this is before OnlyFans, so it was considered much more notable. As a result, when the media found out, they began reporting it as body found in search for teen adult film star. Nikki Watson, who described herself as a close friend of Sanders at Butler Community College in Kansas, first revealed Sanders' double life Wednesday, telling the Associated Press that Sander enjoyed making movies for extra money. Nobody in El Dorado knew besides her close friends, Watson said, adding that Sander had recently signed a contract with a company and had just told her parents about it over the Thanksgiving holiday. Sanders' boyfriend, according to Watson, did not approve. This angle drew the ire of some who felt like the media was blowing her side hustle out of proportion to sensationalize the story. At the very least, it's definitely true that these outlets were playing up this
Since peptides aren't illegal, you can actually get legit sources on mainstream sites, right? And for finding gear, where are some good sources?
Whether they're illegal or not, it's very easy to find good sources. And yeah, they're legal. Yeah, there's websites that are normal where you can give normal payment information. And, like, why are you asking me how to source fucking steroids on YouTube, dude? Like, what are you, stupid? Thanks, dude. Yeah, Richard, do you think Turkey Tom would look good running a cycle, or is he cooked? He doesn't train hard enough, he doesn't eat well enough, and he smokes, so it'd be pretty stupid for him to just go on steroids until he gets his life together. When's the last time you talked to him? It's been a while. Last I heard, he got Me Too'd from some chick. Went AFK. Well, he's clearly uploading. He made a video responding to all the dumb allegations. Like, I don't know why anybody took that stupid shit seriously. It was obviously some dumb bitch ex-girlfriend who was salty over a breakup and just made up a bunch of fucking horse shit. Thanks, dude.
Angle in their headlines to draw more attention to it, even though the police said that there was no indication her secret life had anything to do with the murder, especially considering she had only been doing it for a few months, as she had only recently turned 18. While news articles drove traffic to her personal website, all of the not safe for work content was replaced with a message. To the media, it truly saddens us to see, in this day and age, that we still live in a society that ridicules a woman for doing something that is completely legal. We want to set the record straight. Emily was a solo model whose site went live September 25th, 2007. She was exactly that, a solo girl model. As soon as these false facts were released, you, the media, from the story you ran, have sent more traffic to Emily's adult site in 2 hours than the site has received in 2 months, since the site has gone live. We ask all media outlets, please show some class and respect, for once, on a very sad and misfortunate situation, and get back to the main focus now of capturing Israel Morales. They offer a reward of $3,773 for any information leading to his capture. Given the odd amount, my guess is that this was a small company she was working with, or her own personal friends and family putting out the message. The final line on the site reads, "You can run, but you cannot hide. Running to Mexico will not keep you safe from justice." Ultimately, they were right, as Mexican police arrested him and extradited him back to the United States for the ongoing investigation. Meanwhile, the angle from the media shifted from Emily being Zoe Zane, the adult star, to Israel potentially posting to 4chan before her death was discovered. Emily ended up receiving her own Wikipedia page, which sparked a debate among contributors as to if the image macro was reflective of reality or some troll using the story's notoriety to get some kicks. One contributor points out how the coordinates seem to line up with where her body was found, guessing that Israel posted it himself.
I actually am retarded, that's why I want to get on gear and destroy anyone that makes me feel inferior.
Well, good luck. You're probably gonna fuck it up because you're a retard. Thanks, dude. Blaha hit a 350 bench. Why does that guy look so much like Blaha? Fucking weird. Thanks, dude.
Another replies, "It's more likely that someone had connections with the police, in my opinion, especially since they found the body on the 29th. And we can't really use a screen cap as a reliable source." I don't know what to think of the whole thing. Maybe if some news report came out about it, then it would pass the guidelines. Later on, another contributor asked if it was worth including in Emily's article, but they were shot down by someone pointing out that without a working archive of the thread, ultimately it was just speculation. The last reply in the discussion seems to have gone ignored, as today 4chan is absent from the page. And in fairness, as one writer for Vice pointed out, shenanigans were probably afoot, meaning someone from B probably just wanted to take credit for the murder. As for this murder case, Israel's best explanation for what happened was that he and Emily had gone back to the motel, continued drinking, and had sex. However, he left when a mystery man acquaintance of Emily's came to the hotel room and tried to rob him, and when he got back, she was dead. He then admitted that he got his belongings and put her body in the trunk of his car, drove 50 miles to dump her body, and then fled the country. When prosecutors pressed him on this, he said he was scared, figuring he would be blamed for the murder. The transcript from his cross-examination shows just how dumb this guy really is. So the guy came and attacked you, tried to get your money, and you just leave him there with Emily and all your stuff? I just left, he said. Did you tell anyone when you were coming back, or if you were coming back? No, he said. No one bought his story, and he was sentenced to life in prison. As horrific as his crimes were, we can be thankful he's unable to hurt anyone else. Unfortunately, our next subject has yet to be fully punished. On Friday, February 28th of 2025, a thread was posted to B with the caption, "Hello." Attached was a photo of a woman who appeared to be deceased. She had a piece of paper placed on top of her body, timestamped to the day of the post, along with /B written on it, indicating that the image was original. There's a lot more detail I'm refraining from sharing here, but if the image is to be believed, she did not go peacefully. People immediately began replying, some with jokes, while others questioned its authenticity. The original poster replied saying, "That real," followed by, "I want Feel Be Killer." Based on his broken English and a logo present in the photo, users speculated he was in Southeast Asia. Show us more. What terrible fourth world country are you in where we will never hear about her? He responded minutes later, saying he was in Vietnam, and that his life was now measured in hours. From here on out, the thread devolved into perhaps the most 4chan thing ever. Arguments about if fascism is actually prevalent in the West, accompanied by animated adult content depicting women with male genitals. Glad to see everyone on B had their priorities straight that night. But 3 days later, on March 1st, they put all that aside when a discovery was made. It's real, one anon wrote, attaching a screenshot of the original thread, along with a few images of a young Asian man being placed under arrest. They began searching for local articles, finding one that explained a bit more about the situation. A 47-year-old woman had gone out to collect scrap metal, something pretty common for many Vietnamese citizens. However, by morning, she had still not returned. Her husband went looking, only finding her bike, so he reported it to the police. Upon checking CCTV footage, they found that she had wandered into the house of a young man. He's described by the article as a local shut-in and video game addict, which, once again, would fit the archetype of a B frequenter in all fairness. She apparently went into his house at some point that night and didn't leave alive. Her body was discovered in what looks like the basement. They arrested him at the beach a few miles from the crime scene, but as of yet, he has still not faced trial. Authorities don't seem to be aware of the post yet, but there's no doubt that their suspect is the same one who posted to 4chan. Ironically, this case has received far less coverage than some of 4chan's hoaxes, with the most prominent being on the Internet Mystery subreddit. It goes to show that for every fake story these guys tell, once in a while, there's a real crime documented on the boards. Who knows how many of these cases exist, where the threads just never got any attention or have been lost to time. Robert Hawkins lived a troubled life from the earliest years he could remember. He was the product of two parents who just couldn't get along. They divorced in 1991 when Robert was just 3, but that was far from the end of the turmoil. His mother reportedly used cocaine and marijuana in front of her children, while allegations were made that his stepmother physically disciplined her kids and was verbally abusive. While some of his elementary school teachers recalled him being quiet, behavioral issues were present from an early age. While in primary school, he was hospitalized for depression and had a habit of hitting and biting his teachers. The most likely explanation for this was his tumultuous home life, and unfortunately, it persisted into his teenage years. When he was 14 years old, he threatened to kill his stepmother, causing his placement in a juvenile psychiatric facility. He spent high school bouncing between group homes and foster care, partially because he continued getting in trouble, but also because of his persistent drug use. Despite everything I've just said, employees at one facility he stayed at recalled him as a nice guy, who seemed to be in the best mood whenever his dad was around. But sadly, even these places didn't provide much respite for the guy, as allegations came out after his crime that he was taken advantage of there. He ultimately never finished high school, but by 19, he was out of a facility living with a family friend, Deborah Maruka Kovac. Robert had gone to Deborah's after his biological parents kicked him out, and in an interview she conducted after the crime, Deborah had nothing but nice things to say about him. She said she felt an obligation to take care of him given so many people had given up, and that while living there, he was always polite and respectful. She did say that he was socially awkward and showed signs of a traumatic upbringing.
He didn't know how to talk to people, he didn't maintain eye contact, he fidgeted all the time, chewed his fingernails, sat in the fetal position, was very mistrusting looking, you know. I remember one time when I yelled at my boys for something and he ducked like I was going to slap him.
Despite this, after months of living with the Maruka Kovacs, he seemed to be doing well. And while living there, he randomly bumped into his mother at the grocery store. He moved back in with her for Thanksgiving 2007, which Deborah described as a sort of fairy tale ending. Unfortunately, that didn't last long, as he was soon homeless again, but too embarrassed to ask anyone for help. On December 5th, 2007, Deborah received a phone call from Robert saying he had been fired from his job, before thanking her for everything she had done for him. He said he had left a note explaining everything.
What do you think about microdosing, Retta? You can try it. I don't think it really matters. You know, just try it, see how it works. If you like doing it that way, then do it that way. It doesn't really matter.
thing. While the 3 pages do give insight into his state of mind at the time, they still leave many questions in the air. To his family, he writes, "I'm sorry for what I've put you through. I never meant to hurt all of you so bad, and I don't blame any one of you for disowning me. I just can't be a burden to you and my friends any longer. You are all better off without me. I can't take this meaningless existence anymore. I've been a constant disappointment, and that trend would have only continued." To his friends, he says, "I've been a piece of shit my entire life, and this is my only option. I know everyone will remember me as some sort of monster, but please understand that I just don't want to be a burden on the ones that I care for my entire life. I just want to take a few pieces of shit with me." He ends the note by giving out his social security number. Given how dismal the entire thing was, Deborah likely contacted Robert's mother, who then went to the police. She noticed that her husband's rifle was missing and believed Robert was going to take his own life. It's at this point, between when he left his current residence and before the shooting started, that Robert allegedly made his post to 4chan. "Later today, I'm going to bring my rifle to Von Maur department store at the Westroads Mall, Omaha, Nebraska, to try and beat Cho's high score." Cho being in reference to the Virginia Tech shooter who killed 32 people in 2007, about 6 months prior to Robert's crime. If the post's existence is to be believed, then the first replies are all encouraging him to go through with it, although it's possible they didn't think he was being serious, given the photo he attached was of Frank the cat from the classic Icon has cheeseburger meme. The post was apparently made at 12:38, which would have given him time to get to his final destination, the Westroads Mall. He entered the Von Maur department store at 1:36 p.m. unarmed. After walking around a bit to scope out the area, he left and returned with his stepfather's AK-47. He rode the elevator to the top floor and stepped out into the girls 7 to 16 section and immediately started shooting. He shot 2 women standing by some clothing racks, both of which died. And given they were both adults in that section, it's even more tragic to consider they were probably shopping for their kids. Once the shots rang out, everyone in the store realized what was happening and started running. Robert shot one man trying to escape through a side door and another as he was running down an escalator. He leaned over a railing to kill a janitor on the first floor before returning to Von Maur, where one woman was killed running into the employee locker room. He found 4 employees huddled behind the customer service desk and shot them all before turning around and shooting another man. By the end of his rampage, 8 were dead. Beverly Flynn, Janet Jorgensen, Gary Joy, John McDonald, Gary Scharf, Angela Shuster, Diane Trent, and Maggie Webb. Robert turned the gun on himself as the police closed in. His mother later apologized to the families of the victims on national television, saying, "I'm not perfect, I know that. But you tell me, what could I have done differently? I did my best." Tragically, this wouldn't even be the end of the deaths associated with this case. Shortly after the shooting took place, another Anon posted to 4chan, "Listen up, this is my last message. Tomorrow, a massacre will go down. I will not stop until I am incapacitated or killed by a police officer." Law enforcement took the threat seriously and began investigating, only to find it had been made on the other side of the globe by a 20-year-old Australian. After an international manhunt involving over 100 people, they tracked down Jared Willis of Melbourne and took him in for questioning. Given he didn't own any guns and was so far away, the explanation given was that he was making an edgy joke with no real intent to harm anyone. It was proposed at the time that cops in the US would seek over $100,000 from him, although how they were going to get that is somewhat unclear. He apparently was never charged for this incident, but was due in court due to some kind of defamation he committed via email, although details on this are very difficult to come by. He died before he was able to stand trial, just 6 months after the 4chan hoax post fiasco, although no cause of death was given. Now, as disturbing as the cases I've covered so far have been, the case of Dr. Gloves is one of the most troubling things I've ever talked about on my channel. Major content warning on this one because this is easily the most harrowing entry. If you've got a weak stomach, maybe put down the Krabby Patty for now. In the early 2000s, shock content was arguably more prevalent than it is now, and it was relegated to a few key sites. While 4chan was one source, another was Death Addict, a forum specifically dedicated to the sharing and discussion of real death-related media. They even had merch, so everyone in public can know you spend your free time watching videos of people dying. It was through Addict and 4chan that the colloquially named Dr. Gloves first appeared. Between 2014 and 2018, an anonymous person or persons began uploading disturbing images to these sites. They depicted a man wearing a mask in locations like a hospital and morgue, holding and playing with things like a deceased infant organs and brains. In one set of images, he appeared to be choking the remains of an infant. In another, he's holding an actual living minor, pulling their hair and posing with razor blades. In what is grouped by investigators as Series 6, Dr. Gloves poses with several minors who are disabled and on ventilators to support their breathing. In the images, he is pressing his fingers over their mouth and noses, mocking them while taking pictures. This specific set is notably not taken in the morgue or some dingy room, but instead what looks like the main building of a hospital. The post originally appeared online under the alias Master, and the photos are what the user described as original content. The context for this obviously being that he was sharing it on shock websites, and most of the stuff they shared was secondhand, whether it be from killers themselves, CCTV footage, or police body cams. But in this case, Master, whoever he or they are, was uploading completely unique images that no one had seen. The photos themselves, while extremely unsettling on their own, naturally raise a lot of questions. Apart from the obvious of who is this person, how did they have access to these organs? Or the deceased infant? Did they kill people? Were the minors photographed in the hospital in danger, being hurt by this man? As soon as the photos appeared online, they got the attention of the true crime community. In fact, as early as 2018, members of the Death Addict forum where they were posted had reported the post to the FBI. User Airborne Mama wrote at the time, "Dr. Gloves is a controversial post I had made in the past, where as you can see, this man has some form of authority and has access to dead people, and he does not treat their little corpses very respectfully. The last time I posted these pictures, they created a lot of talk of who he is. Why is he treating those people alive or dead like that? And where was he, and is he still around minors? It turns out all I could find was that he worked at the California Children's Hospital, was a mortician, and I forwarded all the information I could find on my own to the Children's Care Division at the FBI. They have reported back that they could find he did nothing illegal. Although immoral, the pictures were not a crime. Let's not delete this post, as that would be censoring. Almost none of this information turned out to be accurate long term, from the location of the photos being taken to the legal status of his posts. But it is interesting that even members of this community were disturbed by the user's post to the point of getting law enforcement involved. On May 15th of 2022, a post was made to the true crime subreddit, where they went through everything that had been collated by internet sleuths so far. They guessed that the man in the images was between 5'8" and 5'11", somewhat heavy set, between 30 and 45 years old. They later highlight that he's wearing dress shoes, leading them to believe that this man, or one of the men taking the images, is an actual physician. As they note, he was wearing surgical gloves instead of normal exam gloves, furthering their theory. They get some pretty obvious things right as well, which is that based on typical Western electrical outlets, the photos were likely taken in the United States or Canada. They also point out that the style of some of the light switches, as well as the door catch, seem to indicate some of the photos were taken in a residential home. This would mean whoever this individual is not only has access to minors in a home environment, but also somehow has access to them through a medical facility. All of the information being gathered in this case has been posted by the folks at Invisible Choir, who deserve all of the credit in helping to crack this. In 2023, they created a website in tandem with an episode of their podcast, sharing their findings as well as seeking any new information. They note that the mask he's wearing is made of latex, and the eye and nose holes were likely torn after purchase. In one of the images, Dr. Gloves is holding a kitchen pan with human remains on it. This photo is a digitally altered version with the disturbing content removed, which was determined by researchers at Invisible Choir to be an oven pan made for use in residential homes. They note that the dark markings on the pan are likely burnt remnants from flesh or some other organic tissue. They also note that the wall behind this image of Dr. Gloves appears to be made of fiber-reinforced plastic, used in places like meat processing plants or hospitals due to its resistance to mold and bacteria. Therefore, they say it's likely this image was taken in one of those locations. That brings us to the second series of images, the one where Dr. Gloves appears to be choking remains, as well as using a scalpel on them. The location of this image appears to be a dingy, dirty morgue. There's a computer in the background of two of the photos, determined to be the HP Stream Professional 2014, dating the set of images to that year at the earliest. In the third series of posts, which shows Dr. Gloves posing with an alleged victim, the knives featured were determined to be Chinese manufactured hobby knives, sold at various hardware stores for less than $10. In these images, you can still see the Death Addicts logo as well from where they were originally posted. In Series 6, the hospital pictures come into play, where the linens have the logo of Dignity Health on them, a large nonprofit medical company, indicating that these photos were likely taken in a real hospital. They were even able to determine its most likely location, one of the hospitals in San Bernardino, California. As of the creation of the website in 2023, they identified various falsehoods associated with the case. For example, they dispelled the online narrative that although the images are immoral, they don't show anything illegal, indicating that they had spoken with hospital staff.
My name is Jessica Buchanan. I was kidnapped by Somali pirates and held hostage for 93 days before being rescued by SEAL Team 6. This is everything I'm authorized.
None of this is particularly interesting. I know the whole story. Basically, these Somali pirates were holding a ransom. They ran out of fucking fuel. Then they were, like, tugging their boat along, having these hostages. Then they called in SEAL Team 6, and they waited until these dumbasses poked their head out of the boat, and then they shot them all in unison.
And they were hungry. And so, you know, in a way, I kind of understood why we were all there. The number of pirates that were there keeping watch or guarding us varied day to day. It seemed to me that they were operating on shifts. Sometimes we had as few as 6 who were watching us, and then we'd have as many as 40. They would sleep with us on the ground in their defense. They lived the same way we did. I remember having basically like a meltdown early on about something. They had brought me some food or something, and I was a vegetarian at the time, and I think it was like goat. And I'm like, I'm not eating this, you know, I'm a vegetarian. And one of them, his name was Colonel. We called him Colonel. That was his nickname. He got so angry at me for being so ungrateful. Essentially, I could kind of see the other side of it. He was, and I later learned that his name was Abdullahi. He was 11. You know, lived like this day in and day out. And even, you know, they took none of us are saying anything to each other because the reality brought us a couple of books to read.
Who the fuck cares what this dumb fat bitch has to say? Oh my god, that is so fucking boring.
and law enforcement, and the case has even been given federal resources. I feel like this was somewhat obvious given the images show a creepy guy in a latex mask taking pictures with organs and sticking his fingers in the noses of children on ventilators, but I guess the clarification can't really hurt. Secondly, they state, based on our extensive investigation, we were able to confirm that photographs 6-1 and 6-12 were taken on at least one Dignity Health Hospital campus. We do not believe the individual in the photographs is or was a member of hospital staff in any capacity, unless through a special third-party contract. So how they gained access is still one of the many principal mysteries of this case. I want to refrain from speculating too much here, but this obviously opens up a lot for the imagination and possibilities as far as who was pulling this off for so long. The third rumor they dispel is the idea that there's one person behind the photos, saying that it's very likely there are two based on the fact several of the pictures would be impossible to take without another person present. They also identified that 2 of the images are from an educational infant autopsy video. They say this was likely added to further disturb anyone viewing the sets. However, that doesn't excuse the rest of the pictures, which do appear to depict actual crimes being committed. At the time, the website cited 3 different things that they needed help with to identify this man. Firstly, the location and authenticity of the photo where Dr. Gloves is holding remains on an oven pan. They ask how this individual got access to the remains, enough to take pictures of them without being noticed and stopped by hospital staff. Secondly, they ask for the location of the morgue. If the photos were taken by the same person in the same area, they speculate that the worst possible outcome could be at play. Quote, we have yet to definitively link the morgue photographs with those taken at the Dignity Health Hospital campus in San Bernardino. The location of the morgue is key to determine whether or not these photos are connected to exploitation or if they were merely added to the collection from somewhere else for shock value. And thirdly, the biggest question of all, who is the person or persons wearing the mask? On July 31st of 2025, an update was made to the site with a large notice saying solved. Further down, they write, the identity of Dr. Gloves has been definitively confirmed. They say that over a dozen search warrants had been executed in the case, and that while photographic evidence has been reviewed by both medical professionals and law enforcement, questions remain about whether prosecutable charges can be pursued due to concerns regarding applicable statutes of limitation and the legal classification of the images in question. Michael Ojibwe, the original reporting party in this case, is currently exploring legal avenues to obtain access to the nearly 100-page investigative file, either in full or redacted form. As of January 30th, 2025, the police department has declined to release the file, citing the presence of active leads. Sources with direct knowledge of the situation suggest that potential legal implications, such as civil liability concerns surrounding the release of sensitive information, may be influencing the department's continued designation of the case status, despite an apparent lack of prosecutorial intent at this time. Due to the sensitive nature of the material and ongoing legal considerations, additional public comment will be limited. By the end of the year, much of the website had been taken offline, stating that the San Bernardino Police Department asked for it to be taken down due to an active and ongoing investigation. Then it entered its most limited form yet, with a simple disclaimer stating it's been taken offline due to ongoing developments. Unfortunately, that's the latest news on the case of Dr. Gloves. I would love to have more, but for the time being, all we know is that the police claim to know their identity, but they are currently not prosecuting him or them. There are so many further possibilities in this case. Perhaps there are co-conspirators and the photos are tied to some large exploitation ring connected to someone with access to a hospital. Or maybe this is a friend of a hospital employee who stole their information to get inside late at night and pursue their sick urges. Despite over 10 years of this case being online and it receiving more attention than ever, and the perpetrator apparently being identified by law enforcement, for the internet at large, there are still more questions than answers. The anonymous nature of 4chan is what drew users there in the first place. Hypothetically, you can share whatever you want to the boards, especially things you may not want those in your personal life.
Yeah, these people are just fucking gay retards.
People of the West, wake up. There is an invasion happening. Here's a clip from, I think it's Diplo Act, who fucking canceled my flights once. Invited me to speak and then canceled my flight on my ass. People of the West, sincerely wake up. This is a reposted video from Rauda Atanaji. Let's take a
People
look.
of the West, wake up. This is happening.
Islam will be in every household. Inshallah, the whole world is Muslim. The reason the West doesn't really understand or can't comprehend what the Muslim Brotherhood is doing is because the Muslim Brotherhood instills the fear of, oh, what if it's Islamophobic?
Islamophobia.
Islamophobia. I want to criticize the Muslim Brotherhood. They want you to think that you're preaching Islamophobia, and they might sue you. They might make your criticism expensive for you to see.
There's an invasion that's happening by the Muslim Brotherhood in the West. They're not going to use the same tactics that they did before because that was a different time. Now they're going to use it through PR strategies and inclusivity meetings and all those nice sounding words But the end goal of that is to eventually instill a caliphate system in the UK. Or in the West.
Do you think
general.
it's that serious?
I believe so.
And
I believe
how
so.
well do you think they're doing?
Well, at the moment, they're doing very well. They're doing very well. People of the West.
It's true that at the moment they're doing very, very well. Their messaging has been pretty damn effective. They've also not just have they been effective, they've been able to subvert, and I'm about to show you evidence of it right now. They've been able to subvert the message from actual Arabs, right? So Arabs as an identity, the way that we know them today, especially as Islamist Arabs, really only shows up on the block about 1400 years ago with the rise of the Prophet Muhammad and Islam. The Arabs that existed before that were widely Bedouin people, and they were scattered around small parts of the Gulf of Arabia, and like, you know, a little bit in the south of the Levant, just a little bit in East Mesopotamia, in southern Mesopotamia, like a little bit. They had spread out. They weren't a very successful group, but once Islamism came about and they started spreading this message, the group of Arabs we know today really spread, and they went through a very turbulent 1400 years. Yeah. It was up and down, sometimes peaceful and sometimes bad. And then Shia breaks out, and Ahmedism breaks out, and Alawism breaks out, and you have all these sects, and then Sufism breaks out, and you know, then you have the Persian dynasties, and you have just up and down, good peace, bad peace, war, kill, genocide these people, Ottoman Empire, and boom, we line up with the Arab world that we have today.
No, I don't aspirate my test injection. There's no fucking point.
And the Arab world that we have today is comprised of a bunch of nations and peoples that have been Arabized and Islamized, a lot of them away from their desire. And so you have this number quoted of 2 billion Muslims, 500 million Arabs, but of those 500 million Arabs, a tiny percentage, I'm talking to you, maybe 3 to 5% are true Arabs who receive the message of Islam. And those Arabs are actually very wealthy people now who have reserves from pearl diving in the Emirates, who have oil money, who have technology money, tourism. They've opened their countries and they've wanted to reform and make closer ties to the West and change the way that the Islamism comes out of the country. And for lack of better terms, they have improved their ideologies. They have improved how they've gone about reaching out to the people in the West. But then you have the people who are Islamized and Arabized, i.e. Afghanistan, Pakistan, people in Iraq, people in Iran. Not all the people in Iran, but the Islamists in Iran. Specifically, we'll focus on Pakistan and Bangladesh for this example. And because the real Arabs so do not see those Islamized and Arabized people as part of them, as part of their ethnic and pure bloodline, which they're very pure about their DNA. And some of it is granted. Some of it is racist. Some of it is granted. And I've exposed it endlessly on this YouTube channel. I've had conversations with them endlessly on this channel. And they have said it themselves. Nobody wants to believe Tal, but I have exposed it over and over again. Because they so do not recognize, i.e. the Bangladeshis and the Palestinians and the Pakistanis, as one of them, those people, then when they go to the West and in their countries need to so prove to the Ummah, prove to the Arabs that they are one of them, that they overcompensate by building mosques and trying to mass convert people and praying and doing terrorist attacks, trying to show the Arab world, I am the real Muslim. I'm the real one. And here's a grand example of that. The next tweet I was sent by my team here was from Bushra Sheikh, a Pakistani Islamist, okay, who shills out for the IRGC and stands with the resistance, even though she was born where? In London, in the UK. And then she's going to go and criticize the message by the real Arabs, by the Emiratis who were in that video, who are literally the real Arabs who probably actually received the message of Islam. It's the same thing they do with the Jews, by the way. They criticize the Jews and the children of Israel, even though they are the ones who received the original message. And they say, oh, well, they're not real anymore, and Islam is the real way. So ignore them. And they shit all over us all the time. And they say, no, we got it. And that's what the Arabs used to do. But now many of the Arabs in the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and a lot of these places are waking up. And they're saying, wait, the children of Israel may have had a point to them. Maybe we can have brotherhood instead of antagonism. But not Bushra. Why? Because she's Pakistani. She's got something to prove. She has to show you that she gets it better than the actual Arabs, even though she's from South Asia and 3 generations ago her family was Hindu. 3. Maybe not even that long. This video, so the video we just reacted to a second
ago. These people are just fucking cracked. Islam's just fucking retarded. Just don't let any of them in the country. Like, literally do not let any Muslims in the country. There's no reason to. Why don't they unite Somalia by getting all the pirates together to fight Al-Shabaab instead? Yeah, that's not happening. Thanks, Dodo.
Heavy rain and blustering winds wreak havoc in parts of the city as residents are left to recover from the trail of damage caused by yet another powerful summer storm here in the capital. Good afternoon. This is CTV News at 5. I'm Stefan Keys. For the third time in 6 weeks, a major storm has left its mark on the capital. Wind gusts topping 100 kilometers an hour brought down trees and left thousands without power. All of this as heavy rain added to what's already Ottawa's wettest summer on record. CTV's Caitlin Wilson joins us live now with more. Caitlin.
Yes, Stefan, for some residents, the cleanup from one storm isn't even finished before the next one hits. And this time, massive trees were ripped apart or uprooted, crushing cars and damaging homes. Wednesday's storm dumped nearly 22 millimeters of rain on Ottawa, but it was...
It's pretty crazy. Never had any flooding here, but I live on like an elevation, so the water just runs away.
The wind that did much of the damage, with gusts reaching up to 107 kilometers an hour. It's the latest in a string of powerful storms this summer, with more than 500 millimeters of rain falling since June 1st. Thousands across Ottawa and Gatineau also lost power as fallen trees damaged homes and crushed cars.
It was windy. It was wet. It was windy, so I'm not surprised with all the...
They're getting kicked. The city is also investigating after vandals appeared to have out for a crash in the eastbound lanes just before Prince of Wales. We'll be right back.
There's some... Like my street was...
Screening.
Much more sunshine in the afternoon, so I would say you could leave the umbrella at home for...
This place is phenomenal. You know, it's, as far as I'm concerned, the best clinic in the city.
Beautiful.
Helping patients like Pilon. Grateful for the care.
Roger, how do you feel?
Frozen.
3 degrees, a mix of sun and cloud, severe thunderstorm watch. By the time the noon to 4 o'clock hour, in
care to people experiencing homelessness and all for
my face.
Ottawa News.
CTV News. What we're working on for 6 o'clock. It was powerful.
I go downstairs, I heard like bang. I think like window coming inside in my house.
Phil is
over 2 currently filming and.
That's Canadian news. Oh, it rained really hard. Yeah, there's a lot of water. You know, I've noticed the algorithm lately is pretty fucking trash. Oh. I think Jesse James has just uploaded like some stupid fucking videos that aren't worth watching. Living with the unhealthiest couple for 24 hours. Like, whoopee fucking diddly do. I ate with fat people today. Like, great. Fucking retard. Like, that gets 12 million views. Are you fucking kidding me? And let me guess with Will Tennyson. Oh, he didn't even fucking upload anything. Yeah, just more fucking garbage. I went to the fattest versus skinniest place around town. I tried a fucking $5 jib versus $500,000 jib. Like, oh my god, just slop.
I got my cats their own train, and after putting batteries in the train and building out the track, I just had to tape down the button to where it could move on its own, and it was ready for Kurt and Gary to test out, which they were pretty interested in right off the bat. They were sniffing it. Gary seemed like he wanted to drive it. So we tested out our first basket, but it was pretty imbalanced and they wouldn't stay in it. So the next day we tried a new basket, and this one was a lot more balanced, but Gary still wouldn't stay in it for long. And so I tried it with Kurt, and after a whole lap of him licking the treat, I took the treat away, but he stayed in the train.
There we go. Look at him.
This might be my favorite video I've ever gotten of Kurt. Just him riding a train brought me immense joy, and the fact that he would not leave and just rode laps around this track was awesome. And once I let Gary back in, he seemed pretty confused, and it got a little chaotic because Gary almost got ran over, and of course Gary made Kurt wreck.
Oh, Gary, don't steer him off track. What do you do, Gary?
But then Gary got a turn again, and he actually stayed on the train. I think all he needed to see was Kurt do it, and it made
him... Cat train. Oh, I gotta piss. He'll let loose Vietnam. Yeah, of course. Let me guess. Runs like shit. Giving console aim assist on a game like this. Just insanely bad decision. Oh my god. No fucking way. Yeah, I was looking forward to that too. Jeez, what a fucking disgrace. I gotta go take a piss. I'll be right back. Well, imagine you get kidnapped by Somali pirates or Muslims and they force you to eat meat. Would you refuse and starve? Yeah, sure.
They lived the same way we did. I remember
I
having
already saw that part. Thanks, dude. The YouTube algorithm either sucks monkey fuck or... Like, is nobody uploading videos anymore? Like, it's just the same fucking garbage on fucking repeat. Like, I've just noticed lately, I'm not getting recommended, like, fucking anything new. I don't give a fuck about Godus, dude. Why the fuck would I watch any of his content?
There's an easy shortcut you can do at the beginning of the terror it fires. A lot easier. The ball. There will be a spring platform that we need to use to get up to the next level. So jump onto that and bounce up here. This enemy is called a swell cheeks. It's like a dangerous. The red one will dangerous. The red one will. There are very few the attack or extra damage. You need to get to the flagpole as quickly as possible. This is a checkpoint, but whenever he's done, flagpole on top of you to a spring platform below, and then bounce up to another. You want to go very to a spring platform below. This time, you're going to need to drop back to the spring that you were on before, and then you'll find another spring on the other side that you can jump to get up to the next section. And this is the end. You want to go very fast up and to the left here. So all the platforms are going to be to the left until you make it to the next level. Here, this next one's left, but then there's one to the right, and that one drops out from under. And if you go fast enough, you'll avoid that yellow swell cheeks, and it'll be time to fight the Dark Queen. The Dark Queen.
So we're literally right at the end.
Queen is very difficult, but I do have good news for you. If you die up here and you still have continues left, you'll actually continue at the Dark Queen. So she's almost like the 13th level. What you want to do is try to avoid her when she's in the tornado form, and then you want to get behind her and do charge attacks from behind. You can also catch her in the air once you get her with one charge attack, but you can see if you attack her from the front, she'll get you with a knee attack and you'll be knocked down. Try to avoid her whenever she's in the tornado, and try to get her from behind. But whenever she's like revving up the tornado and you don't see the yellow part of it yet, she's vulnerable then. And she's certainly vulnerable when she stops spinning. So whatever way she's facing when she stops spinning, try to get behind her and do a ram attack. It does take a good number of hits to take out the Dark Queen. So do your best not to get hit by her and pick your spots. You know, you want to look for a good opportunity to hit her. Shouldn't take too much more at this point, and it looks like we maxed out our score, which is pretty awesome. Yep. And that's it. We've completed Battletoads and rescued our friends, Princess Angelica and Pimple. Make sure you're not standing in the middle of the screen after you kill the Dark Queen. She does come up in that tornado form, and if you're standing there, you will get hit. So watch out.
Yeah, I've played Boogerman. It's not very good, but, you know, it's interesting game back in the day. No, never played Shredder's Revenge. No, didn't see Happy Healthy Vegans video on Mommy Tang. Why the fuck would I? Like, you think I watched that channel to begin with? Think I care about what he has to say about some fat dumb bitch? No shit, I didn't see the fucking video. You don't even have to ask. This is just all garbage. Why is this all fucking garbage? I don't know if I can play Battletoads right now. I'm just too fucking tired. Better mood is not a side effect of test. That would be an effect of test. Oh, this is an early access. Add that to my wish list. Looks kind of interesting. Oh yeah, I heard about this game, Half Grip. Yeah, that looks kind of funny. I'll add that to my wish list. What are the reviews like? Okay, like one retard giving it a bad review. Alright, that's already on my wish list. Femboy and Fuda House? I have no idea why I'm getting recommended that. That Marvel Tokon fighting game looks like fucking trash. I'm just not playing it purely on the basis of the characters look fucking garbage. These are some of the worst costume designs and art style I've ever fucking seen in my life.
For Earth's sake, I hope you don't disappoint.
It's like they hired one of the most retarded anime manga artists to design like American superheroes.
Is no one's entertainment.
Let's finish this quick. I've taken down more. Getting crowded. Wade, you are hopeless.
That's just
It's awful. Just so bad. Yeah, they won't make another Marvel vs. Capcom, but they'll make that fucking garbage. That's still $1 billion. I'm too fucking tired to do anything. I am going to go to bed. But hope you all had fun. Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. I'm not training tomorrow, so good chance we'll do like an afternoon game stream. Fucking car is that? Huh. Yeah, so good chance we'll do a game stream in the afternoon, and then a normal stream later in the day. We'll see how things